Naruto, advancing through pure effort in Konoha. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201 Speculations. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind, and Qingming threw out 3 kunai. Then, he heard a few ding-ding sounds, and all the kunai thrown by the middle-aged rock ninja were blocked by him. Then, Qingming formed a seal again and performed the ninjutsu at a very fast speed, fire style, phoenix fire technique. He opened his mouth slightly and spit out hundreds of fireballs in one breath, and then these fireballs were divided into 2 under his control. Among them, 2/3 hit the middle-aged rock ninja, and the remaining 1/3 hit the seriously injured Aquasuke beside him. From the other party's previous reaction, it can be seen that he values Aquasuke very much, otherwise he would not protect him so much. In this case, Qingming naturally has to make good use of it. Damn it, the middle-aged rock ninja saw his actions and cursed with an ugly face, but after cursing, he still had to bite the bullet to help Aquasuke resist Qingming's attack. There is no way, who made Aquasuke a rising star in their family, and he must not be lost here. That's right. The middle-aged rock ninja and Aquasuke are from the same family. That's why the other party came to support first. Water style, water array. While the middle-aged rock ninja quickly formed seals with both hands, and before the fireball approached, he performed this B-level ninjutsu, creating a water wall to block Qingming's attack. The fireball hit the water wall, making a sizzling sound. Then, a large amount of water vapor appeared, blocking Qingming's vision. Seeing this, Qingming frowned slightly, immediately formed seals, and performed the ninjutsu, wind style, great breakthrough. Then, a gust of wind blew, instantly dispersing the water vapor in the field, and even cleared the smoke and dust in the surrounding air. When everything returned to calm, Qingming looked ahead. However, where was the figure? The place where the middle-aged rock ninja and Aquasuke had been was empty, leaving only a hole with a diameter of about 70 to 80 centimeters. Obviously, they escaped through some kind of earth-style ninjutsu. So you used water ninjutsu to resist my fire ninjutsu before, was that intentional? Feeling that he was tricked, Qingming was very unhappy, and he opened his Sharingan and scanned around. Then, he saw the middle-aged rock ninja who had just drilled out of the ground in the distance, and the unconscious Aquasuke in his hand. As if he noticed his gaze, the middle-aged rock ninja also looked over, and then showed a mocking smile. Not only that, he also made a provocative gesture, as if he was trying to provoke him to go over. But how could Qingming be so unwise? Although he was very unhappy that he was tricked by the other party, he would not lose his mind and seek revenge. Did he see that there were several rock ninjas nearby? What if he went over? These people all gave up their current opponents and surrounded him together, wouldn't he be in danger? Qingming would not put himself in such a dangerous situation. Taking a deep breath, Qingming retracted his gaze and looked at the battlefield around him. At first glance, he saw his youngest subordinate. At this time, the opponent was being besieged by 2 awakens, and his body was covered with blood. It was unknown whether it was his own or someone else's. Without much hesitation, Qingming used the instant body technique and rushed over directly. Before the 2 awakens could react, he used 2 hypnotic spells in succession to control the 2. Then, he swung the short sword in his hand and killed the 2 instantly. Captain, it was not until the 2 awakens fell that Qingming, the subordinate, reacted and hurriedly greeted him. Yet, Qingming nodded, without any nonsense, kicked the ground with both feet, and immediately ran to the next battlefield. Since the opponent let him act freely for Aquasuke, he would not be polite and attack these middle and lower ninjas. In just 2 minutes, Qingming went around the battlefield and killed 7 awakens. Finally, the awakens couldn't stand it anymore and sent 2 people to deal with Qingming. However, what surprised Qingming was that the 2 men had no intention of killing him. As soon as they came, they put most of their thoughts on defense. Only when Qingming showed that he wanted to leave the battle, they would take the initiative to attack, and when Qingming launched a counterattack, they would retreat again. This made Qingming feel a little tricky. However, through the performance of these 2 people, he also understood the purpose of the rock ninja. They just wanted to entangle him here and prevent him from attacking other rock ninjas. As for killing, I'm afraid they haven't thought about it themselves, at least not now. In this case, Qingming simply used time with him. What? Why don't you kill these two people too? Indeed, if he uses all his strength, he can do this. But what about after that? 2 more Rock Village Jonin? This time, the Rock Village dispatched the elite, and there are quite a few Jonin in the team. Can he kill them all? Qingming thought he had done enough in this battle. He killed nearly 10 Chunin, 2 special Jonin and 2 real Jonin. In addition, he also seriously injured a Jonin. Such a record is enough. If there are more, it would be a bit ostentatious. As the saying goes, a tree that stands out in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Before he has absolute strength, Qingming doesn't want to show off too much. Although his current performance has exceeded 90% of the Jonin, it is still within an acceptable range. But if there are more, it would be a bit unreasonable. In this case, he might as well follow the idea of the rock ninja and try his luck. And by the way, he can also brush up his proficiency in swordsmanship. As for the life and death of other Konoha ninjas, that is not something he needs to worry about. He is their babysitter and there is no reason to protect them all the time. What's more, Qingming feels that something is wrong. Logically speaking, the battle has lasted for such a long time, enough for Naruto to figure out the situation and then concentrate its forces to launch a counterattack. What's the result? The opponent is still using the refueling tactic, sending small teams in batches. In this way, their troops can never overwhelm the rock ninja. How can the casualty rate be reduced? If they continue to fight, Konoha will be the only one to suffer. Qingming didn't believe that Naruto didn't think of this, but since the other party still chose to do this, there must be a reason for doing so. And there are only 2 reasons. Either the base was also attacked from other directions, and now there is no extra manpower to support them. Or Naruto is planning something and needs them to act as bait to hang these rock ninjas and prevent them from leaving. In Qingming's opinion, the second possibility is the greatest. There is no other reason. If it is the first one, then Naruto will most likely let them retreat, shorten the defense line to concentrate troops, and thus reduce casualties. Only when there is a deeper plan, the other party will not hesitate to induce the rock ninjas to stay at the cost of human lives. I just don't know how big the other party's appetite is. Thinking of this in his heart, Qingming and the 2 rock hidden ninjas in front of him began to kill time. Chapter 202 Encirclement and End. Time passed by minute. In a blink of an eye, the battle had been going on for more than 40 minutes. Qingming had been wasting time for almost 10 minutes, and the situation in the field finally changed. First, there was some commotion inexplicably in the periphery of the battlefield, especially in the direction of the rock ninja far away from the base. Then some rock ninjas seemed to have received some news, and after a struggle, they began to organize their men to retreat. Seeing this, Qingming narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, he looked at the 2 rock ninjas who were wasting time with him, and said with interest, "Hey, your companions seem to be retreating, why don't you leave?" "What?" The 2 rock ninjas were startled when they heard this, and then immediately looked at the other rock ninjas, and sure enough, they saw that some of them had already begun to evacuate. Obviously, they had not noticed this before. However, this is also normal. Although Qingming was wasting time with them before, he would not really pretend. In order to gain more proficiency, he was using his swordsmanship with all his strength. Therefore, the 2 of them had to deal with it with all their heart and soul, otherwise they might still die in his hands. Therefore, it was normal that they did not notice the actions of the other Iwagakure Jonin. Just as they were thinking about why, several sharp whistles of varying lengths suddenly sounded in the field. This is the signal to retreat. The 2 Iwagakure Jonins changed their expressions slightly, looked at each other, and then immediately launched a counterattack against Qingming. Seeing this, Qingming roughly guessed the meaning of the whistles of Iwagakure. At this time, the 2 opponents took the initiative to attack, which did not mean that they wanted to fight him to the death, but more likely to pull out space for retreat. After all, if they were always suppressed by him, even if they wanted to retreat, they would not have the opportunity. It seems that Naruto's plan was successful, but I don't know if it is the same as what I thought. Thinking this in his heart, Qingming waved the short sword in his hand and easily blocked the continuous attacks of the 2 Iwagakure Jonin in front of him. Moreover, they always launched a counterattack when they wanted to retreat, so that they could not get out of the battle. This made the 2 Iwagakure Jonins anxious. On the contrary, Qingming was calm as water, just hanging the 2 Iwagakure Jonins, neither too active nor too passive, just one word, drag. And this was exactly the move that the two Iwagakure Jonins used to deal with him before, and now he used it on the two of them, which can be said to be a way of giving them back in their own way. Suddenly, the two Iwagakure Jonins felt extremely uncomfortable. Soon, a minute passed. Just as Qingming was dealing with the two people who were becoming more and more irritable, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. The person who spoke was none other than Yamanaka Tingfen. At this moment, the other party was using the Yamanaka clan's spiritual secret technique, the art of communicating with the heart, to inform all the Konoha Jonin present of the latest situation. At the same time, he also conveyed to them the latest instructions of Naruto. Qingming listened carefully for a moment, and soon a sure enough expression appeared on his face. His guess was not wrong. Naruto really had his own plan, and his appetite was not ordinary. He actually planned to wipe out the elite Iwagakure Jonin in the field. Now, more than 3/4 of the personnel in the base have been transferred out by him, and the Iwagakure troops in the field have been surrounded. The Iwagakure rioted just now because they discovered their encirclement and hurriedly wanted to evacuate. As for why even these Jonins were not notified in advance, it can only be said that the plan was made too hastily. When they completed the investigation and ensured that there was no threat from the Iwagakure in other directions, and began to implement the plan, the battle on their side had already lasted for a long time. At that time, Shanshuang Tingfang was not nearby, and they couldn't send people to notify one by one, right? That would be too easy to leak the secret. Therefore, Naruto decisively postponed the notification. In this regard, Qingming could only spread his hands. What else could he say? These Jonins are said to be the pillars of the village, but in this war that swept the entire world, they are also just higher-level cannon fodder. Therefore, it is redundant to say anything. Anyway, as long as his strength is strong enough, he can deal with it safely no matter what the situation is. In the final analysis, strength is the fundamental factor that determines everything. Just like now, even if he doesn't know the truth, he can still stand firm on the battlefield with his hard power, and then quietly wait for the situation to become clear. Those who are not strong enough can only consider themselves unlucky. Just when Qingming was distracted by listening to Shanshuang Tingfang's words, two Iwagakure senior ninjas seized the opportunity, at the cost of minor injuries, to leave the battle and quickly run away. Seeing this, Qingming thought about it, and finally did not choose to pursue. He put away his dagger and began to organize the nearby Konoha ninjas according to Naruto's instructions, preparing to cooperate with the teams in other directions to encircle and suppress the Iwagakure ninjas present. 2 hours later. The battle is over. Everything is so natural. Except for less than 10 people who escaped, the rest of the elite Iwagakure ninjas have been killed. In fact, when the Iwagakure ninjas did not discover Naruto's plan in advance and were surrounded, everything was doomed. Indeed, this Iwagakure ninja team is elite, but the Konoha ninjas who can escape all the way here are also not good people. In this way, coupled with the fact that Naruto dispatched nearly 3/4 of the entire stronghold, the military advantage directly crushed the Rock Ninja team. Adding the encirclement and waiting for the enemy to tire themselves out, the result is self-evident. Even though the Rock Ninja fought desperately throughout the whole process, in the end it only caused a few more deaths on the Konoha side, and it could not affect the entire battle situation. Many of them still died. Qingming looked at the body of the young Rock Ninja on the ground, shook his head, and said, "It seems that you didn't survive in the end." This person was none other than the Rock Ninja who was severely injured by him. And next to him was the body of the middle-aged Rock Ninja. Before the other party died, he was still protecting the young Rock Ninja, but unfortunately there were too many Konoha ninjas this time. And some of his tricks were useless. In this way, with such a big burden beside him, who would die if he didn't die? Just as he was sighing, a Konoha Chunin ran over and said respectfully, "Qingming Junin, Captain Nara asked you to go to the conference room for a meeting in an hour." In an hour, Qingming groaned and replied, "Okay, I know. It just so happened that he also wanted to know why the Rock Ninja suddenly launched an attack this time, and it seemed that many of the Rock Ninja were not from nearby bases." As for how he was sure of this, the reason was simple. Since he became famous, the Rock Ninjas in nearby bases, especially the middle and lower level Rock Ninjas, all knew his face. After all, no one wanted to be targeted by the Ghost Sword. However, when he arrived at the battlefield, among the 4 Rock Ninja Chunins he met at first, only one knew him. This was a problem. Except that these people were not from nearby bases, He could not think of any other possibilities. What's more, the rock ninjas who attacked this time were not as strong as the rock ninjas in nearby bases, so there must be support from other places. But now, the rock ninja village is facing pressure from the Sand village and the Cloud village. How could they transfer people to support here? There must be something he didn't know, which is why he couldn't understand the choice of the hidden rock village. However, this meeting should be able to answer some of his doubts. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 Meeting. After standing there and thinking for a while, Qingming shook his head, stopped thinking, and turned to the place where the wounded were placed. There was still an hour before the meeting started, and he planned to take time to brush up on his proficiency in the palm immortal technique. At present, his palm immortal technique has been promoted to level 6, but it takes 10,000 points of proficiency to upgrade from level 6 to level 7. If it is just based on practice, it will be too slow. Therefore, the opportunity to practice cannot be missed. Although this will prevent him from using the Yang escape chakra he has condensed to strengthen his body, sharpening the knife does not delay the chopping of wood. The earlier he can reach level 7 in the palm immortal technique, the better the strengthening effect will be. When he arrived at the wounded placement point, there were already medical ninjas busy here. Qingming blended in with these and began to treat the wounded on the field. Seeing this, the other medical ninjas did not say much. After nodding to him, they continued to do their own things. Obviously, they have become accustomed to Qingming coming to help from time to time. Time passed by minute. About 50 minutes later, Qingming stopped the treatment, said something to the squad leader of the medical class, and left. On the way to the meeting room, Qingming opened the panel and took a glance, and saw that the proficiency of the palm immortal technique increased by 120 points. Not bad. With a murmur, Qingming closed the panel and rushed straight to the meeting room. When he arrived, there were already quite a few people sitting here, all of them were Jonin. Seeing him coming, these people all nodded, and some even took the initiative to greet him. Qingming keenly noticed that these people's attitude towards him had undergone some subtle changes, and it seemed that they were more enthusiastic. Not only that, Qingming also saw a hint of fear in their eyes. What's going on? Qingming was confused, but after a little thought, he understood the reason. After all, the only thing that could make these people afraid is strength. And strength? Coincidentally, he showed it in this battle. Let's not talk about the encirclement and suppression later. Qingming was almost paddling the whole time, waiting for an opportunity to harvest chakra. But in front, he was besieged by several Iwagakure Jonins, and killed 4 people and seriously injured 1 person. Although only 2 of the 4 people killed were real Jonins, and the other 2 were just special Jonins with special skills. But his strength cannot be denied. In this way, it is normal to arouse the fear of others. And this also made Qingming feel that his last idea of hiding his shortcomings was right. Now this record has aroused the fear of these people. If he killed the 2 Iwagakure Jonins at that time, it would not be as simple as fear. Maybe these people will not do anything, but what about those who are not on good terms with the Uchiha clan? It is hard to guarantee that they will not do something after getting the news. Thinking of this, Qingming suddenly didn't look forward to the next meeting so much. Now, he just wants to go back and improve the proficiency of each skill, and then improve his own strength. Only strong strength can make him feel at ease. However, it was not appropriate to leave now, so Qingming could only wait quietly for the meeting to begin. Fortunately, he did not have to wait too long. After only a few minutes, Narasishu, who was presiding over the meeting, came over. He sat in the first seat, knocked on the table, and directly announced the start of the meeting. First, he summarized the gains and losses of this battle. Not to mention the seizure and loss of equipment, which was not very important. The main thing was the loss of combatants on both sides. According to subsequent statistics, a total of 93 rock ninjas were wiped out in this battle. Among them, 18 Jonins, including 11 special Jonins, 63 Chunins, and the remaining 12 were Genins. Such a gain is not small for their mere stronghold. Of course, it was only their stronghold. If it were other strongholds, let alone killing so many rock ninjas, it would be good if they were not directly broken by the other side. After all, The main personnel of their stronghold were the spearheads of the counterattack plan more than a month ago, and they were originally elite. After that, there were another series of battles, and after the second screening, the average strength was even stronger. Only in this way can the Rock Ninja Assault Team be wiped out in one fell swoop. Even for this, they also paid a heavy price. In this battle, we lost a total of 8 Jonin, 46 Chunin, and 32 Jinan, and there were about 60 lightly and seriously injured. Hearing Narasishu's words, everyone was silent. A full 86 people were killed. In terms of the number of deaths alone, they were actually about the same as the Rock Ninja, and at most it could only be considered a tragic victory. Of course, if you really want to be serious, the Rock Ninja's losses must be more serious than theirs. After all, the number of Jonin killed on both sides is twice as much. But in general, their losses are indeed not small. After a long silence, Narasishu continued, "This time, it is thanks to the Jonin Qingming." Hearing this, everyone turned their eyes to Qingming. "What does it have to do with me?" Qingming looked puzzled. Then Narasishu said, "If Qingming hadn't withstood the pressure in the early stage, killed several Iwagakure Jonin, and entangled 2 people, our losses would probably be even greater." Everyone nodded involuntarily when they heard this. Indeed, the highest death rate in this battle was the blocking battle in the early stage. 80% of the deaths occurred at that time. As for the subsequent encirclement and suppression, because they have more people on their side, many times even if they are defeated and injured, they will be rescued, so there are not many actual deaths. And in the early stage, it happened that Qingming made the greatest contribution, so it's not wrong to say that it's all thanks to him. However, this statement sounds like flattery. Qingming glanced at Narasishu, who was sitting in the first seat, and didn't see anything on his face. "I hope I'm overthinking it." Muttering to himself, Qingming said calmly, "I just did what I should do." The 86 companions who sacrificed their lives are the ones who should be thanked the most for winning this battle. They exchanged their lives for victory. Qingming's politically correct words blocked all the others' agreement. Hearing this, Narasishu looked at him in surprise, then made a few more additions, and then started the second topic. The second topic was the next defense issue. The Rock Ninja suffered such a big loss this time, and they will definitely not give up. If the opponent can launch a surprise attack once, they can launch a second and third time. Therefore, the next defense is very important. Everyone also knew this, so they expressed their opinions and soon formulated a strict defense plan. "Very good, then everyone will act according to the plan," Narasishu concluded. At this time, the meeting was coming to an end, and Narasishu finally mentioned the reason why the Rock Ninja suddenly launched such a large-scale surprise attack this time. Chapter 204 News. According to the latest intelligence from the headquarters, the Sand Village seems to have temporarily suspended its offensive against the Iwagakure village due to logistical issues. "Did the Iwagakure village take action?" someone asked. Narasishu shook his head. Seeing this, everyone was puzzled. Besides the Iwagakure village, who else would be interested in the Sand Village's logistics system? "No one took action," Narasishu replied. "What do you mean?" Everyone was puzzled. Narasishu patiently explained, "It means literally, no one took action against the Iwagakure village's logistics system, they just couldn't hold on. Not to mention the attack on the Iwagakure village, even the western defense line that has been fighting with us in full swing for some time, the Sand Village has also slowed down its offensive in recent days. I'm afraid the Sand Village really can't hold on in this war." What? Everyone was shocked when they heard this, and they couldn't believe it in their hearts. They couldn't imagine that one of the 5 major ninja villages would lose this war because of logistical issues. Although wars are fought with logistics, unlike wars between ordinary people, the most important factor in the war between ninjas is whether there are enough troops. As for logistics, although it is equally important, it is just the last straw that breaks the camel's back. If there are enough troops, even if the logistics are cut off, they can still plunder supplies from the enemy's territory by fighting to support the war. Only when there are not enough troops, the logistics problem is a real problem. But the problem is that the current reserve force of Sand Village is not small. Although Sand Village is the village with the least troops among the 5 major ninja villages, because of its high average combat power and the existence of puppet masters, Sand Village has also lost the least manpower in the past 2 years of war. Therefore, relatively speaking, their reserve troops are still sufficient. In this case, the logistics problem can still become the key to affecting the decision-making of Sand Village, and there is only one possibility. That is, the logistics of Sans Village is already as bad as it can be, and the quantitative change eventually leads to qualitative change, which has become a key link in the decision-making of Sans Village. Being promoted to Jonin, everyone present was not a fool and figured it out quickly. Qingming thought further. If the logistics of Sans Village were really bad to this extent, then, later, in order to reach a reconciliation with Kirigakure, the hero who betrayed the village, Shoten, Yakura, was not simply excluding dissidents by Luosha, but Sans Village really couldn't fight anymore and had to agree to Kirigakure's request. There is one thing that can prove this from the side. That is, later, the pig, deer, and butterfly trio represented Konoha and submitted a peace contract to Iwagakure at the junction of the three countries. As a result, some hawkish Iwagakure ninjas did not want to stop the war and prepared to sabotage. At this time, Luosha suddenly appeared with people and said that this place was also the territory of the Wind Country and they couldn't watch them fight, which prevented those Iwagakure ninjas from succeeding. In the end, Iwagakure and Konohagakure successfully concluded a peace contract. It can be seen that Sans Village is the one that most wants to end the war among the major ninja villages, otherwise he would not meddle in other people's business. The more he thought about it, the more it made sense to Qingming. Since traveling through time, it was the first time he realized that the war was so close to ending. However, the darkness before dawn is often the real darkness, and the calm before the storm is not the real calm. If the war wants to end, it will not end without a few tragic battles. Therefore, it is too early to talk about the end of the war now. Concentrating his mind, Qingming ignored the others and looked at Naruto and asked, even if the Sans Village slows down its offensive, isn't there the Cloud Village? Shouldn't the Rock Village give priority to sending people there? Hearing this, everyone came back to their senses and thought to themselves, yeah, compared with the crazy offensive of the Cloud Village, what are they? I'm afraid they don't even have the qualifications to be taken seriously by the other side. In this case, even if the Rock Village has spare strength, it should target the Cloud Village. Why did it suddenly attack them? Everyone looked at Naruto, waiting for him to give an explanation. Seeing this, Naruto said helplessly, according to the latest intelligence, the competition for the fourth Raikage candidate within the Hidden Cloud Village has entered a white-hot stage. Now, the front-line troops of the Hidden Cloud Village have no intention of fighting at all, and the war with the Hidden Rock Village has almost stopped. Everyone was speechless when they heard this, and they also knew why the Hidden Rock Village would target them. Perhaps it was not just them, but the entire Hidden Leaf Village. Sure enough, Naruto continued, 10 minutes ago, the headquarters just received news that it was not only our base that was attacked, but also several bases were attacked. Now, some bases are still holding on, and some bases have fallen. Hearing this, a senior ninja sighed. It seems that the Hidden Rock Village is going to make us spit out all the gains of the past month. Indeed, in the past month, they took advantage of the Hidden Rock Village's inability to return to support and launched an offensive, seizing a large piece of the Hidden Rock Village. Now, the Hidden Rock Village has freed up its hands and immediately launched an attack on them. The intention is too obvious. If you ask me, we can actually give up our territory. Although the counterattack organized by the headquarters did not achieve all the goals, the results are still good. Now, we can completely retreat to the previous base, and then wait for the attack of the Rock Ninja there. Someone said so. Yes, hearing this, someone echoed, I think it's okay. There is another advantage of retreating, that is, the supply is closer. To be honest, after knowing that the Sans Village had to slow down its offensive due to logistics problems, I am also a little worried about our logistics. If the Rock Ninja bypasses our base and cuts off the supply line in the rear, we will be in trouble. Don't forget, this is originally their territory. They know exactly where they can go and where they can't go. In this way, it is not difficult to hide from our surveillance. So, I also think we can withdraw first. Some people agreed, and naturally some people opposed. For a time, the meeting room was as lively as a vegetable market. Finally, it was Naruto who spoke up. Let's stop here. These things are not your or my turn to worry about. The strategic adjustments will be considered by the third generation in Orochimaru. We just need to do our own things. After hearing this, everyone stopped talking and talked to each other for a while. After Naruto announced the end of the meeting, everyone got up and left. After leaving the meeting room, Qingming ignored everyone else and used a flash body technique to disappear from the spot. Seeing this, everyone looked at each other, wondering why Qingming was so anxious. What for? Of course, practice. Today's practice plan has not been completed yet, and Qingming has no intention of wasting time here. Chapter 205 Promotion and Plan. Time flies. In the blink of an eye, 5 days have passed. In these 5 days, the Rock Ninja launched several counterattacks as expected. But because they were well prepared, and because the Rock Ninja suffered too much loss 5 days ago, the subsequent attack strength was really average. Therefore, it did not cause much impact on them. Qingming, on the other hand, fell behind in his practice because of several attacks. The skills that could have been upgraded yesterday were delayed until today, inside the secret base. Qingming made seals with both hands, like a beginner, carefully making seals, mobilizing chakra, and performing the Genjutsu Sharingan. Every time, he would gain a little proficiency and some insights. After absorbing these insights, he would perform again, and gain a little proficiency and new insights. Qingming continued to absorb and continue to perform. In this way, the cycle repeats. As the number of repeated practice increases, he gains more and more insights, and eventually the quantitative change becomes qualitative change. At a certain moment, after Qingming once again used the Genjutsu Sharingan, new insights came like a tide, instantly drowning him. Qingming was immersed in it and did not wake up for a long time. When he woke up, he felt that everything had changed. Qingming raised his right hand and pointed out with one finger. Although nothing happened, Qingming knew that his Genjutsu Sharingan had been successfully performed. In the past, no matter how skilled he was, he had to make a seal to do this. But now, just one finger can be successfully activated. The whole process seems to have become instinct. As long as he wants, he can perform it, and there is no need for the so-called seal. Is it perfect? Murmuring, Qingming retracted his fingers, looked back for a moment, and then silently said, "Panel." The next moment, the familiar light blue light curtain emerged. Name, Uchiha Qingming. Age, 12 years old. Constitution, 12 spirit, 15 chakra, 21,500, 2,923,631,700, bloodline, Sharingan, 3 Magatama, 9,999, 10,000, skills, chakra refining technique, LV5, 212/5000, wind style, wind blade, LV1, 5/200, LV2, 112/500, shadow clone technique, LV3, 15/1000, LV3, 180/1000, chakra absorption technique, LV5, 1650, 5000, LV5, 1815, 5000, Rasengan, LV4, 310/2000, LV4, 640/2000, Palm Immortal Technique, LV6, 1/10000, LV6, 1865/10000, Chakra Scalpel, LV4, 210/2000, LV4, 495/2000, Heart Reflection Technique, LV7, 4885/20000, Swordsmanship, LV5, 4450/5000, LV6, 512/10000, Chakra Control, LV4, 1376/2000, LV4, 1574/2000, 3 Body Technique, LV3, 0/0, Instant Body Technique, LV4, 0/0, Ninja Tool Throwing, LV5, 0/0, Fire Style, Phoenix Fire Technique, LV5, 0/0, Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique, LV5, 0/0, Fire Style, Dragon Fire Technique, LV5, 0/0, Wind Style, Great Breakthrough, LV5, 0/0, Magic, Shackle Technique, LV5, 0/0, Illusion, Sharingan, LV7, 0/0, Healing Technique, Level 5, 0/0, Qingming skipped all the columns above and fixed his sight on the Level 7, 0/0, Genjutsu Sharingan below. As expected, his Genjutsu Sharingan had indeed been perfected. In fact, when he was sure that he could cast the Genjutsu Sharingan with a wave of his hand, he guessed that this skill should have been perfected. Now, it was just a reconfirmation. The perfection of the Genjutsu Sharingan also meant that from now on, most of the Jonins would no longer be his opponents. Of course, this does not mean that he can defeat everyone with just the Genjutsu Sharingan. Before the Sharingan evolved into the Mangekyo and the pupil power underwent a transformation, it was not difficult to break free from such an instantaneous illusion, especially for Jonin. The reason why Qingming said this was because his other abilities were also powerful and could be combined with the Genjutsu Sharingan to defeat those Jonins. Of course, if his Sharingan could go one step further and evolve from 3 Magatama to Mangekyo, then with just one Genjutsu Sharingan, he could indeed defeat most of the Jonin. Just like Uchiha Itachi later, he could make a strong man like Kisame fall into an illusion with just one glance. Thinking of the Mangekyo, Qingming glanced at the 3 Magatama Sharingan whose progress bar in the bloodline column reached 9,999, 10,000, and then shook his head. Although he wanted to upgrade it immediately, his reason told him that it was not the right time yet. Anyway, he had no pressure now, so there was no need to take risks. Let's wait until the physique attribute comes up. Thinking of this, Qingming turned his attention to other skills at the perfect level. Not to mention Fire Style, Dragon Fire Technique and Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique. They had already been promoted to the perfect level 5 days ago. But Wind Style, Great Breakthrough. Thanks to Qingming's allocation of the 5,000 chakras that he had originally invested in the Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique 5 days ago, the chakras that he could obtain every day doubled. In this way, it originally needed 10 days to advance, but today it took the first step of the Genjutsu Sharingan and advanced to the state of perfection. As it advanced to the state of perfection, Qingming also mastered the changes in the form and nature of Wind Attribute Chakra. At this time, he also performed the Wind Style, Great Breakthrough, and the power of the storm he created was at least twice as much as before. In addition, with this bonus, his proficiency in practicing the Wind Style, Wind Blade will also double. By then, as long as he changes the 10,000 chakras that he originally invested in the Wind Style, Great Breakthrough to the Wind Style, Wind Blade. Then, in less than half a month, his level can break through LV5. By then, he will have another trump card. However, these are all later stories. Now, his Genjutsu Sharingan has been promoted to the perfect state, and his swordsmanship has also been upgraded by 1 level. The conditions for developing Genjutsu have been met, and he is ready to start trying. There is also instant swordsmanship. He has mastered the changes in the form and nature of Wind Attribute Chakra. Although he lacks a good sword, the short sword in his hand can also be used. Therefore, he can also do research in advance. In other words, he will develop Genjutsu and instant swordsmanship at the same time. When he thought of this, Qingming couldn't help but get excited. He now urgently wants to know whether the proficiency panel can help him develop the swordsmanship. If so, he may be able to walk out a unique path of his own in the future. If not, he can only continue to move forward along the path of his predecessors. However, Qingming estimates that it is likely to be useful. There is no other reason. The skills he has learned on the panel were also developed by his predecessors. It doesn't make sense that others can develop them, but his can't. Therefore, Qingming is still relatively optimistic deep in his heart. Taking a deep breath to calm himself, Qingming began to experimentally create the illusion sword technique according to his previous ideas and combining his own knowledge. Chapter 206 Success. The sun rises and sets. In the blink of an eye, a week has passed. This afternoon, on the west side of the stronghold, somewhere in the woods, Qingming, holding a short sword, challenged 3 Konoha Chunins alone. At first, the 3 fought back and forth with Qingming. However, as they fought, one of them suddenly froze in place, watching Qingming's short sword piercing straight at him, motionless. Seeing this, another Konoha Chunin hurried forward and blocked Qingming's attack for him. At the same time, the third Konoha Chunin held a kunai and stabbed directly at Qingming's back. A faint sense of crisis came over Qingming's heart, and Qingming glanced back, and then he thought about it and injected a large amount of wind chakra into the short sword. As a faint green light appeared on the blade, Qingming was enveloped in it, and the whole person seemed to be integrated with his short sword. Then, Qingming's right hand holding the sword exerted a little force, and the tip of the sword pointed forward. The next moment, a bright green light appeared, and Qingming disappeared with his sword. When he appeared again, he was standing behind Onoseda, with a short sword in his hand against his back. Seeing this, the 2 Konoha Chunins quickly put down their weapons and admitted defeat. One of them said helplessly, "Captain, Your instant sword technique is faster again, we can't keep up." "Yes." Hearing this, the other one echoed, "And the illusion sword technique is also much more powerful." Seda hasn't woken up yet. As he said this, he looked at Ono Seda, who is standing still. That's right, after a week of attempts, Qingming has developed the illusion sword technique and the instant sword technique. Ono Seda in front of him was hit by his illusion sword technique, so he stood still. And he disappeared and reappeared before because he used the instant sword technique. Of course, as the Konoha Chunin who spoke first said, after performing the instant sword technique, his speed increased a lot because of the existence of wind escape. But this is not teleportation. Although there is not much difference between the two in the eyes of the middle and lower ninjas, they can't react anyway. However, when dealing with the Jonin, the difference is huge. One is fast, but there are traces to follow, and the other is space teleportation. Without corresponding means, it is impossible to defend against it. Even if Qingming can continuously enhance its speed by improving the level of instant sword technique, so that it can catch up with the speed of teleportation in close combat. But the difference is different and cannot be confused. Qingming put away the short sword, heard the words of the two subordinates, and replied lightly, "This is just a little bit, it's okay to deal with you, but it's far from enough to deal with Jonin." As he said, he lifted the illusion for Ono Makoto in front of him. The moment he came to his senses, Ono Makoto immediately raised the kunai in his hand, as if he was going to fight someone. However, when he saw the situation around him clearly, especially the two teammates standing beside him, he immediately smiled bitterly and said, "I got hit again." Hearing this, the two shrugged their shoulders, and the meaning was self-evident. "Okay, you guys go to the side and train on your own." After finishing today's routine training, Qingming didn't want to waste time, so he started to drive people away. "Okay, Captain." Hearing his words, the three of them responded, and then left with their arms around each other's shoulders. After they walked away, Qingming had an idea and opened the proficiency panel. The next moment, a familiar light blue screen appeared. Name, Uchiha Qingming. Age, 12 years old. Constitution, 12 spirit, 15 chakra, 27,100, 3,170,033,268, bloodline, Sharingan, 3 Magatama, 9,999, 10,000, skills, chakra refining technique, LV5, 261/5000, wind style, wind blade, LV2, 112/500, LV4, 750/2000, shadow clone technique, LV3, 180/1000, LV3, 290/1000, chakra absorption technique, LV5, 1815, 5000, LV5, 1920, 5000, Rasengan, LV4, 640/2000, LV4, 1390, 2000, Palm Immortal Technique, LV6, 1865/10000, LV6, 3727/10000, Chakra Scalpel, LV4, 495/2000, LV4, 702/2000, Heart Reflecting Technique, LV7, 4885/20000, Swordsmanship, LV6, 512/10000, LV6, 1350/10000, Phantom Sword Technique, LV2, 20/500, Instant Sword Technique, LV1, 160/200, Chakra Control, LV4, 1574/2000, LV4, 1805/2000, Perfect Skills. It can be seen that compared with a week ago, there are two more skills on his panel, Phantom Sword Technique and Instant Sword Technique. As he had expected, when he successfully developed these two sword techniques, the panel absorbed them, allowing him to quickly improve their levels by grinding proficiency. It was also because of this that he could use them in combat in just a few days. You know, it takes other people months or years to develop a ninjutsu. During this period, it is considered good to be able to perform it stably, let alone use it in combat. And what about him? In just a few days, his proficiency reached the level of LV2, which is no longer an entry level, but a proficient level. The gap between them can be imagined. With this convenience, Qingming can completely develop ninjutsu according to his own needs. thus walking out a path that belongs to him alone. For a while, many novel ideas popped up in Qingming's mind, but they were quickly suppressed by him. There was no other reason. His current knowledge reserve was too shallow. In addition to his fantastic ideas, the main reason for being able to develop the illusion sword technique and instant sword technique was the illusion Sharingan, sword technique, and wind style breakthrough. Now, if he wants to develop other more advanced ninjutsu, it is undoubtedly a foolish dream. As the saying goes, without accumulating small steps, there is no way to reach 1,000 miles. Without accumulating small streams, there is no way to form a river or sea. Without sufficient accumulation, no matter how many ideas he has, they are just castles in the air. Therefore, at this stage, what he has to do is not to be fanciful, but to learn the knowledge of his predecessors down to earth and enrich himself. Only after laying a solid foundation can we talk about walking our own path, otherwise it is just empty talk. Inhale, exhale, take a deep breath and then exhale slowly. Qingming opened his eyes, closed the panel, and after calming down, he began to practice the next skill according to the plan. About half an hour later, the rest time was over, Qingming stopped practicing, and then took 3 subordinates to continue the patrol mission. When the mission was over, it was getting dark. Qingming returned to the base, and after confirming that there was nothing for him to do, he separated a shadow clone to stay behind, and he went to the secret base. Then, he entered into intense practice again. Although he had perfected several skills over the past period of time and no longer needed to spend time practicing. However, the chakra he could use every day did not decrease, and Qingming could not waste it. He allocated all the chakra to other skills. In this way, the time Qingming spent on these skills naturally became longer. With this increase and decrease, the time he needed to practice every day did not change much. Therefore, time was still very tight for him, and he still slept only about 4 hours a day. However, Qingming had become accustomed to this busy and fulfilling life and did not think it was a big deal. Today is gone. Chapter 207 Evacuation. 3 days later. It was the beginning of February. After more than half a month of strengthening, Qingming could already clearly feel the changes in his body. At this time, there seemed to be a hidden force in his body, which was constantly pushing his body to evolve slowly in a more perfect direction. Qingming knew that this was a sign that his physique was about to improve. According to this accumulation rate, Qingming estimated that his physique attribute would be improved in at most 1 week. By then, both the chakra upper limit and the chakra recovery speed will usher in a big improvement. At the same time, the narrowing of the gap between the physique attribute and the spiritual attribute will also bring him one step closer to safely opening the main Gekyo Sharingan. Just when Qingming thought he would wait safely until the day when the physique attribute was improved, a piece of news suddenly disrupted his practice plan. Early morning. Center of the stronghold. In the meeting room, Naruto had just finished reading the order from the headquarters when someone couldn't wait to ask, "Captain Nara, what happened? Why did the headquarters suddenly order us to retreat?" That's right, the headquarters had just sent an order for them to withdraw from this stronghold immediately and return to Fengliu Town stronghold in the shortest possible time to assist the garrison there and defend against possible attacks. The key point is that Fengliu Town stronghold is behind them. If there is a possibility of attack there, then wouldn't it be more dangerous for them here? But there hasn't been anything unusual these days? Everyone was puzzled and waiting for Naruto to give an answer. Seeing that everyone was looking over, Naruto said seriously, "We just got the news that several strongholds near us have been breached." What? Everyone was shocked when they heard this. You know, these strongholds basically inform each other of their respective situations every day in order to share information. And just yesterday, several nearby strongholds were still normal. Except for some minor daily fights, there was nothing major. But it was only one night, how could it be breached suddenly? And it was breached all at once? No matter how you think about it, it seems impossible. But Naruto couldn't joke with them about such a serious matter, so someone asked, "What is the specific situation?" According to the news from the headquarters, the raid on the Hidden Rock Village last night seemed to have dispatched the 4-Tails Jinchuriki and the 5-Tails Jinchuriki at the same time, and there were also elite assistants from the blasting team. Naruto replied. "What? 4-Tails and 5-Tails, blasting team?" Several different voices rang out almost in order, which was enough to show the surprise in the hearts of these people. Yes, whether it is the 4-Tails Jinchuriki, the 5-Tails Jinchuriki, or the blasting team of the Hidden Rock Village, Taking one out alone is a troublesome character, let alone dispatching them together. It is normal for everyone to be surprised. It's just that is the Hidden Rock Village planning a full-scale counterattack? So many elite troops were dispatched. Originally, because they were being chased by the Hidden Rock Village, the base they occupied was closest to the rear, and it was a recessed part of the entire defense line, so it was relatively safe. But now, several nearby bases have been breached, so they have become a salient here, and it is no wonder that the headquarters asked them to retreat immediately. If they don't leave now, they may not be able to leave even if the Hidden Rock Ninja Army surrounds them. Realizing this, everyone stopped talking nonsense and immediately made a retreat route and plan, then left a meeting room and went down to prepare. Qingming didn't have much to do. This time he was still assigned to the combat group, so he seemed a little leisurely among the busy senior ninjas. However, this was just an appearance, and he was actually about to curse in his heart. It seemed that his physique attribute was about to improve, and suddenly he was given such a thing. There is no doubt that the prisoners in the secret base cannot be kept. And this means that he has to lose more than 40,000 chakras every day. Although not all of this chakra was used by him to perform the palm fairy technique to strengthen his body. But without these chakras, even if he used all the chakras he could recover every day to strengthen his body, the time for his physique attribute to improve would be delayed by 2 to 3 days. Should I do this? Qingming hesitated. If he did so, it would mean that his other skills would basically be stagnant in the next 10 days or so. Qingming opened the panel, glanced at these skills, thought about it, and finally decided to suspend the practice of these skills. There was no other reason. The skills he was practicing at this stage, whether it was Wind Style, Wind Blade, Rasengan, or Shadow Clone Technique, were not skills that needed to be improved urgently. Their current levels were enough, and there was no need to compete with Palm Immortal Technique for chakra. On the contrary, the improvement of the physique attribute was related to his foundation. In the case of insufficient chakra, it should still be the main focus. After thinking this through, Qingming no longer hesitated. Then, the next step is to deal with the head and tail of the secret base. Although there is a shadow clone left over there, he cannot notify them, and at this time, he cannot leave the base. In this case, I can only create another shadow clone. Thinking this in his heart, Qingming walked to an empty corner, and after making sure that no one was paying attention to this side, he formed seals with his hands and performed the shadow clone technique. Bang! A cloud of chakra smoke exploded, and a figure appeared in front of him. Without Qingming's instructions, he knew what he had to do. After nodding to Qingming, the shadow clone left here, quietly sneaked out of the base, and rushed to the secret base. 1.5 hours later, southwest of the base, Qingming was running fast in the forest, and suddenly his steps stopped. At this time, there were 2 more chakras in his body, and 2 more memories in his mind. Qingming quickly browsed through them, which were the memories of the shadow clone who stayed over at the secret base and the shadow clone he had sent to deal with the head and tail not long ago. Next to him, another Junin from the combat team saw Qingming suddenly stop and asked hurriedly, "What's wrong? What did you find?" While speaking, he looked around vigilantly, as if looking for hidden enemies. Seeing this, Qingming was about to say it's okay. But at this moment, a subtle sound of breaking through the air reached his ears. Qingming's face changed slightly, and he immediately looked up in the direction of the sound. The next moment, his pupils shrank suddenly, and he hurriedly shouted, "Be careful!" As he said that, he rushed towards the dense forest next to him. The Konoha Jonin who was traveling with him saw his reaction, and without any nonsense, he immediately followed his footsteps and flashed to the jungle next to him. Although he didn't find anything, he believed in Qingming's judgment. This was the prestige that Qingming had earned time and time again. Chapter 208 Acquaintance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, dozens of kunai shot like raindrops, covering the area where Qingming was before. Then, a violent explosion sounded. A detonating talisman in the kunai suddenly exploded, making a loud noise. And this was just the beginning. Boom boom boom, explosions sounded one after another. One shock wave after another swept around. The nearby trees were shaken constantly by the wind, and some of the ones that were closer were directly blown off the trunk and fell down. In addition, because of the flames produced by the detonating talismans, many surrounding trees were also ignited, making the environment here even worse. After everything returned to calm, Qingming crawled out from under a broken tree and spit out the foreign objects in his mouth. He reached out to throw away the weeds above his head, stood up, and looked vigilantly in the direction where the kunai came from. In the smoke and dust, dozens of blurry figures stood with their arms folded, looking at this side quietly. Win style, great breakthrough beside Qingming, a Konoha Jonin who had also escaped the disaster, formed seals with his hands, opened his mouth, and performed this technique. Whoosh, a gust of wind blew over, sweeping away the smoke and dust in the field. At the same time, the figures in the distance also revealed their figures. They were none other than a dozen ninjas from the hidden rock village. Qingming's eyes swept through these people one by one, and finally fixed on the one in the middle. There was no other reason. This person had the most chakra in his body, and gave him the most dangerous feeling. As for the others, except for a few Jonin who could catch his eye, the rest of them were the elite among the Chunins, but he didn't take them seriously. While he was observing these people were also observing him, especially the one in the middle, who said, "You are worthy of being a genius of the Uchiha clan. You can actually discover our ambush in advance. Can you tell me where we made a mistake?" Discovered the ambush in advance, Qingming was speechless. He just showed some abnormalities because he suddenly received the memory sent back by the shadow clone. As a result, in the eyes of the other party, it was understood that he had discovered the ambush in advance. Maybe if he went a little further, he could really discover the ambush. But at that time, he really didn't find anything. It can only be said that this was a wonderful misunderstanding. If the other party hadn't been too anxious and thought he was exposed, and quickly launched a sneak attack, Qingming would not have been able to detect the danger in advance. At that time, if the other party had waited patiently for a while, he would definitely find that it was just a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, there is no if in everything, and Qingming will not take the initiative to explain the reason. It's good to let the other party figure it out. However, from this incident, Qingming also discovered one of his shortcomings, that is, the lack of large-scale exploration methods. This point must be made up in the future. Thinking of this in his heart, Qingming said to the rock-hidden ninja, "Guess." Hearing the teasing in Qingming's words, the rock-hidden ninja waved his hand and planned to let his subordinates launch an attack. But at this moment, Qingming and the Konoha ninja beside him turned around and ran straight into the distance. It turned out that while Qingming was talking, he had secretly signaled to the Konoha Jonin who was traveling with him, asking him to prepare to retreat together. Then, this scene appeared. Looking at the two people flying away quickly, the Iwagakure Jonin's face darkened and shouted, "Chase!" "Yes, Captain." Upon hearing this, more than a dozen Iwagakure Jonin immediately responded and chased after them. The Iwagakure Jonin stood in place, forming seals with his hands, and he didn't know what ninjutsu he performed. He touched the ground with his right foot and disappeared. On the other side, Qingming and the other man ran while sending a signal to the main force. Suddenly, a slight vibration came from under their feet. Qingming and the Konoha Jonin next to him looked at each other, and without any hesitation, they immediately split to the left and right and retreated violently. Almost at the moment they retreated, the ground under their feet exploded, and a large amount of soil and gravel splashed, forcing Qingming and the other man to retreat again and again. Detonating talisman? No, that's not right. As soon as this thought came to Qingming's mind, he denied it. Not to mention that the sound and movement were not the state of the detonating talisman after the explosion. There could be no detonating talismans on this road alone. You know, in order to avoid being trapped, they chose the road they just came from. Nothing happened just now, so it doesn't make sense for it to happen now. So, there must be a problem. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind, and Qingming looked ahead. When the smoke and dust dissipated, he saw a figure standing in a big pit with his fists clenched. This person was none other than the Rock Village Jonin who made Qingming feel vaguely threatened. Qingming looked at the other party's clenched fists, and then looked at the big pit exploded under his feet. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something, and cast his gaze on the other party again, carefully looking at his appearance, slightly thin figure, shriveled cheeks, and brown afro. All of this is so familiar. Qingming looked at the other party and asked tentatively, "Shu?" "That's right." The other party's appearance reminded him of the member of the Iwagakure village explosion squadron who was resurrected by Kabuto Yakashi during the 4th Ninja World War, Shu. The bloodline limit of the other party, explosion, can't it be used to create explosions? Sure enough, hearing his words, Shu frowned and asked, "Do you know me?" This meant that he agreed. However, Qingming's face did not show the excitement of meeting an acquaintance, but only a faint fear. There was no other reason. To a certain extent, Shu was quite restrained towards him. The other party usually fought with a pair of fists, so his melee ability was very good. If it was just that, it would be fine. In terms of melee, Qingming was not afraid of anyone. The key was the other party's explosion. It can condense chakra on its fists and make objects explode through contact. Looking at the big pit under its feet, you can tell that its power must be good. And this, for a flesh and blood body, is a big killer. As long as it is touched, there is almost no chance of survival. This means that the opponent can completely adopt the injury for injury strategy to limit his vision blocking tactics. As long as the opponent can be sure that his next sword will not kill him, he can take the opportunity to counterattack, thus forcing him to dodge or return to help. Therefore, Qingming said that the opponent has some restraint on him. However, not being able to use the vision blocking tactic does not mean that he cannot threaten the opponent. Apart from anything else, the Sharingan illusion alone is enough to make the opponent drink a pot. Listening to the footsteps approaching quickly behind him, Qingming no longer hesitated, opened his mouth and pretended to answer the opponent's question, suddenly activated the Sharingan, raised his hand and cast the illusion, Sharingan. Not good, Sho immediately sensed the danger and closed his eyes while retreating violently. However, Qingming's illusion, Sharingan has long been promoted to the perfect state of LV700, and can be cast with a wave of his hand, and the opponent has no time to react. Almost in an instant, the opponent was controlled. Chapter 209 Explosion and Counterattack. Qingming's move was too fast and too sudden. Not only did Sho fail to react, but even his teammates did not react, so they failed to cooperate. Qingming had to finish the attack himself. However, as he predicted, before the Sharingan was upgraded to the main Gekyo, even if his Jinjutsu Sharingan was perfect and released instantly, it would not be able to trap a Jonin for a long time. And if the Jonin was mentally prepared and had superior strength, it would be even more impossible to trap him. It happened that Sho was such a Jonin. So he saw that he broke free from the illusion after only a moment of distraction. At this time, Qingming had just arrived in front of him and stabbed out the dagger in his hand. At the critical moment, Sho grabbed Qingming's dagger. Then, Qingming heard a boom and a powerful chakra burst out from Sho's palm, and his dagger also exploded into countless pieces at this moment. Holding the bear held, Qingming was confused. To be honest, he had never encountered such a situation before. Before the fight officially started, the main weapon was destroyed. Seeing Qingming's doubtful look, Sho did not hesitate at all and immediately threw the dagger fragments in his palm, making them attack Qingming's face. Then, he took a step forward and came close to Qingming. Then, he made a fist with his left hand, and the explosive chakra surged out, wrapped around his fist, and then smashed it hard into Qingming's abdomen. If it hit, Qingming would at least be seriously injured. Fortunately, although Qingming was stunned for a moment because the dagger was destroyed, his attention was still on the opponent. Therefore, at the moment when the opponent threw the dagger fragments, he fully activated the Sharingan and saw the series of actions that followed clearly. Among them, of course, the opponent's punch was a feint to the east and west. Qingming ignored the dagger fragments that were shot at him, stepped hard on the ground with his right foot, and dodged to the left with all his strength, making Sho's punch hit the air. Despite this, Qingming was still knocked back 2 steps by the shockwave from his fist. Obviously, even if he hit the air, the explosion release could still be effective, which made Qingming even more afraid of it. On the other side, before Qingming could stand firm, Sho stepped forward again, clenched his fists, and hit Qingming's body from left to right. Not only that, he also learned from the lesson just now and stopped looking directly into Qingming's eyes, although this would reduce the accuracy of his attack. But with the explosion release in hand, he didn't need to consider the accuracy issue. As long as he made sure that the attack could land on Qingming, it didn't matter where he attacked. In fact, it was true. Facing the opponent's attack that was like a turtle fist, Qingming had to dodge, and didn't dare to let the opponent touch him at all. Not only that, the special nature of the explosion release also made him dare not confront the opponent head-on, for fear that if he was not careful, his fist would be shattered by the opponent. This was the first time Qingming was forced to this point. It's not that it's dangerous. With a 3 Magatama Sharingan that has evolved to the limit, such a slow attack can't threaten him. The key is that it's frustrating. The feeling of being beaten and not being able to fight back is not so pleasant. So, after avoiding more than a dozen punches in succession, Qingming took out a kunai from the ninja bag. This time, he is no longer powerless to fight back. With a powerful insight brought by the Sharingan, he can completely take advantage of the gap between the opponent's attacks and use Kunai to counterattack. The battle finally changed from one-sided to mutual struggle. At the same time, the Konoha Jonin who was traveling with him did not just watch. He had appeared in front of the other rock ninjas and was trying his best to stop them from getting close. That's right, with this delay, the rock ninjas behind had already caught up. Qingming took the time to glance at the battle over there. He was outnumbered alone, and although he could move around, as the battle continued, it was only a matter of time before he was defeated. Can't delay any longer. Thinking this in his heart, Qingming ducked to avoid Shou's punch, then found the right opportunity to thrust out the kunai in his hand, aiming directly at the opponent's heart. Only such a fatal weakness can force him to return to defense. As expected, sensing the danger, Shou immediately retracted his fist to dodge. Seeing this, Qingming did not hesitate at all, and spread his left hand, and a high-density chakra ball appeared in his palm. It was the unprinted ninjutsu, Rasengan. After performing this technique, Qingming did not pause, and stretched out his left hand forward, and the Rasengan in his palm pressed directly to Shou's chest and abdomen. Feeling the strong sense of crisis coming from it, Shou did not dare to be careless, and stepped back again to avoid the attack. Taking this opportunity, Qingming also flew back, away from Shou, and quickly formed seals with both hands, and finally condensed a transparent wind blade in his palm. This is not other ninjutsu, but the advanced ninjutsu he copied from Ohara Hidiji, Wind Style, Wind Blade. After these days of practice, his level is close to level 5. Qingming can perform it at this time. This kind of fast, high attack, and highly concealed ninjutsu is perfect for dealing with Shou at this time. As expected, Shou did not notice his attack intention at the first time because he did not dare to look directly at him. It was not until he rushed forward again and prepared to continue to fight with Qingming in close combat that he realized the danger and quickly dodged. In the end, the wind blade passed through his arm, leaving a deep scar on his left arm. Qingming was relentless and continued to pull away. At the same time, his hands quickly formed seals, opened his mouth, and spit out a huge fireball. It was the iconic ninjutsu of the Uchiha clan fire style, Great Fireball Technique. Feeling the rolling heat wave coming from the front, Shou immediately dodged the attack with a sideways dive. Boom! The fireball exploded, and the hot high-temperature flames quickly spread around along with the shock wave, forcing Shou to dodge again and again. With this crucial interruption, it was impossible for the opponent to get close, and Qingming could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Next, it was his kite-flying moment. Without worrying about the consumption of chakra, Qingming formed seals with both hands, and at a dazzling speed, he successively performed the fire style, Phoenix Fire Technique, Fire Style, Great Fireball Technique, Fire Style, Dragon Fire Technique, and Wind Style, Wind Blade. During this period, he also threw a few shurikens or kunai with detonating tags from time to time. With the powerful insight of the Sharingan, Qingming's prediction of Shou's movement became more and more accurate, which made his attacks more and more threatening. This made Shou very frustrated. However, he didn't dare to look straight ahead, for fear that he would be controlled again by Qingming's illusion. Finally, after being scratched by the wind blade again, Shou chose to temporarily avoid the edge. He saw him forming seals with both hands quickly, and performed the earth escape ninjutsu that he had used when chasing Qingming and the others before. He lowered his body and disappeared on the spot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Situation. Seeing that Shou had disappeared, Qingming was about to look for him. But at this moment, his teammate suddenly let out a scream. Qingming looked in the direction of the sound, only to see that his left arm below the elbow joint had disappeared, and he was now desperately avoiding attacks from others. Qingming thought for a while, and finally decided to give up looking for Shou's trace, and then he used a flash body technique to quickly come to his teammates. Ding ding ding! Qingming waved the kunai in his hand and blocked the attacks of several surrounding rock ninjas one after another. Then, he used a genjutsu, Sharingan, to directly control the person closest to him. At the same time, he took out a detonating tag from his ninja bag and attached it to the rock ninja like lightning. Zzz! The detonating tag burned quickly, making a subtle sound. "Be careful." A rock ninja saw Qingming's action, so he shouted loudly to warn his companions. Seeing this, the others hurriedly scattered. Taking this opportunity, Qingming grabbed his teammate's arm, kicked the ground with his feet, and retreated several meters away from the Iwagakure ninja who was standing still. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. A ball of fire suddenly appeared, and a painful wail could be heard faintly in it. The sound lasted for a while before gradually disappearing. "Damn it!" Seeing this, Iwagakure Jonin cursed, looked at Qingming who was running away, and shouted, "Chase him!" Hearing this, a group of Iwagakure ninjas immediately chased Qingming. Qingming was carrying a person, so he naturally couldn't run fast. So, he turned around and stopped, and released the Genjutsu Sharingan to control an Iwagakure ninja, while his hands quickly formed seals. Seeing this, the Iwagakure Jonin immediately shouted, "Be careful!" At the same time, he also began to form seals, as if he was going to use ninjutsu to fight ninjutsu. However, Qingming's speed was too fast, and he completed the seals in almost a blink of an eye, and then opened his mouth and spit out a huge fireball. Seeing the huge fireball coming towards them, the rock ninja had to give up casting spells and scattered like everyone else. Boom! The fireball exploded, and the shock wave carried high-temperature flames, spreading rapidly in all directions, igniting a large area of nearby jungle and dispersing the rock ninja team even more. Seeing this, Qingming did not pause at all, and formed a seal again, and at a dazzling speed, he cast another fire escape ninjutsu, fire escape, phoenix fire jutsu. In an instant, fireballs like phoenix seeds spewed out of his mouth, densely packed, like flowers scattered by a fairy, controlled by him, and smashed into those rock ninjas. Originally, those rock ninjas were running away, but were suddenly attacked by these fireballs. Many people couldn't react and were hit in the body. Immediately, someone screamed. Then the second and third people. Seeing that Qingming had injured so many of them in a short time, those rock ninjas could no longer sit still and cast ninjutsu to fight back. Seeing this, Qingming was not in a hurry. With a powerful insight brought by the Sharingan, he easily avoided the attacks of these ninjutsu. Then, he performed wind style, great breakthrough again, blocked the pursuit of the rock ninja, and left with the injured teammates. The strong wind stopped, and the rock ninja wanted to organize people to continue the pursuit. But at this moment, Sho suddenly emerged from the ground and said, "Don't chase, Captain." When several people saw Sho appear, they first greeted him, and then asked unwillingly, "Captain, are you going to let them go like this?" "Let them go?" "No." Sho shook his head and said, "Just spare their lives for the time being." But one person wanted to say something, but before he could say it, he was interrupted by Sho. He only said, "With our current strength, we are not enough to stop the other two, especially Uchiha Qingming. His strength is not simple. Continuing to entangle will only cause meaningless casualties." At this point, he paused, looked back from a distance, and then continued, "Calculating the time, the village should have blocked their retreat. Next, we just need to provide the village with a movement of the Konoha army, and then patiently wait for the village to complete the encirclement. By then, we can easily catch them all. So, there is no need to sacrifice more people now." Several Jonin heard what he said, thought for a while, and felt that what he said made sense, so they stopped talking, at the same time. On the other side, after several minutes of running, Qingming and his teammates finally returned to the base camp. However, the atmosphere here was not what they expected. Before they got close, they were stopped by someone. After a detailed inspection, they were allowed to approach the main force. Qingming and the Konoha Jonin who were traveling with him looked at each other, and both saw solemnity in each other's eyes. The large army suddenly guarded so tightly, there must be something wrong. It just so happened that their group had just encountered a rock ninja squad not long ago. And there are several reconnaissance teams like theirs. Could it be? Qingming had some guesses in his mind. Then, his mood became even heavier. If his guess is true, then the road ahead will be difficult. Just as he was thinking, Naruto and several Jonin rushed over. They looked at Qingming, who had lost his main weapon, and his fellow Jonin who had lost half of his forearm, and asked, "Did you also encounter the enemy?" Also, Qingming keenly caught this key word, thinking that his premonition was about to come true, so he decisively asked, "Did other groups also find it?" "Yes," Naruto nodded and said in a deep voice, "Before you, 3 groups had returned and all found a small group of rock ninjas. In addition, 2 groups have completely lost contact. We suspect that they have died. You are the fourth group to return, is that so? Qingming pondered for a moment, and then roughly recounted the experience of himself and his fellow Jonin. When they heard about the strength of the hunter, they all took a deep breath and secretly thought that it was fortunate that Qingming was sent in this direction. Otherwise, they might have lost 2 more people. After summarizing all the information, they could basically conclude that they had been targeted by the Rock Ninja. Moreover, they were not targeted temporarily. The Rock Ninja must have planned it in advance. Otherwise, it would be impossible to arrange people on their way so early in the morning. Originally, they were glad that the Rock Ninja did not attack them last night, but now it seems that they were too happy too early. The reason why the Rock Ninja did not launch a surprise attack on them last night is probably because the location of their base is too special. In addition, the overall strength of their base is very strong. If they attack rashly and are dragged down, it is likely to arouse the vigilance of other bases, or even besiege them. Therefore, the Rock Village did not include their base in the first batch of attack lists. However, the other side did not intend to let them go. Look, not long after the battles in other bases ended, they were targeted. It can be predicted that the Iwagakure village must be making intensive preparations now, and once the preparations are completed, they will surely be faced with a catastrophic disaster. Chapter 211, Strong Charge. No, we can't move forward so slowly anymore. Time is not on our side. We must speed up. After some discussion, someone said so. Others nodded in agreement. Narasishu pondered for a moment, but there was no good way, so he agreed to the proposal. Then, he ordered, from now on, everyone abandons unnecessary things and the team starts to move forward at full speed. Hearing this order, all Konoha ninjas threw away their luggage and began to travel light. Not only that, even the team's baggage was abandoned. Anyway, if they move forward at full speed, it will take less than a day for everyone to reach the Fengliu town stronghold. By then, living supplies and other things will be provided there, and they don't need to waste time on these things. At the same time, Qingming also found a short sword for himself. Although it is not as handy as the original one, it can at least allow him to continue to use swordsmanship to fight. Of course, this kind of weapon found casually must not be mixed with precious chakra-conducting metal. Therefore, sword moves such as instant swordsmanship that require chakra transmission for coordination and performance cannot be used. If he wants to exert his full strength, he still has to find a new main weapon in the end. And the target. As early as when he developed the instant sword technique, he already had it, that is, the Kusanagi sword that is very famous in the entire ninja world. However, it is really difficult for him to find such a rare weapon alone. Besides, he can't leave the front line at will. Maybe. After returning this time, I can ask the clan to help find it, Qingming thought in his heart. With the ability of the Uchiha clan, if they use their connections, it should not be a problem to find one or two. And with the potential he has shown so far, I think the clan doesn't mind helping him. With a plan in mind, Qingming no longer thought about it, and walked out of the main force quickly, and began to move and guard nearby with other members of the combat group. This time, they did not stay away from the main force. Since they already knew that there were rock ninjas nearby, they would naturally not fall into the trap. As for the problem of the whereabouts of the main force being exposed, there is no need to consider this. In the current situation, it is almost inevitable that they will be exposed. In this case, instead of wasting time and energy to cover up, it would be better to rush a little further while the Iwagakure village is not ready yet. In this way, perhaps some casualties can be reduced. That's right, it is to reduce some casualties. Whether it is Qingming or other senior ninjas, they are actually very clear in their hearts that the Iwagakure village will definitely not let them leave so easily. Therefore, one or several battles are inevitable. And once a battle occurs, casualties are inevitable. Now, they can only hope that the Iwagakure village will react slowly and let them rush a little further. In this way, the probability and number of attacks they encounter on the remaining road will be reduced, and the number of deaths will naturally decrease. However, their ideas are good, but the reality is cruel. Just when they got rid of the entanglement of the small groups of Iwagakure ninjas around them and were about to leave the radiation range of this stronghold, Hyuga Aoyama suddenly told them a bad news. The road ahead is blocked. Hyuga Aoyama's eyes were bulging with blue veins on both sides, and his sight went directly through the jungle and rocks to see the scene a few hundred meters away. Qingming and other Jonin gathered together again. Someone asked, How many enemies are there and how strong are they? Hinata Kingshin observed for a while and replied, there are about 100 people, less than 10 Jonin, and about half of them are Chunins. Wait, as he was talking, he suddenly stopped and looked at the 2 o'clock direction first, and then at the 10 o'clock direction. Finally, he said quickly, 2 more teams of rock ninjas are approaching, and their overall strength is about the same as the ones blocking the road ahead. In fact, the field of vision of the Byakugan is 360 degrees, so there is no need to turn your head when observing. But the habit he developed in his daily life still makes Hinata Kingshin unconsciously face that direction when he focuses on a certain direction. However, this also has an advantage, that is, Qingming and others can clearly know which direction he is talking about. Narasishu looked at the 2 o'clock direction and the 10 o'clock direction. Then he compared the nearby map in his mind and confirmed that there were also 2 roads leading to the outside world in those 2 directions. After a little thought, he said with certainty, it seems that the rock ninja has blocked all our retreat routes in advance. Now these 2 teams are probably determined that we are going to take this road and rushed here temporarily. After saying that, without waiting for others to speak, he ordered, notify everyone and get ready. We will rush in all at once next. The others were stunned at first, but soon understood what he meant. This is to forcefully break through the blockade before the rock ninjas form a siege. Indeed, only in this way can they temporarily get rid of danger. If they stay here, they will be surrounded sooner or later. With this thought, everyone stopped wasting time and immediately dispersed to the entire team to prepare for the next strong attack. Qingming and other combat group ninjas came to the front of the team, acting as spearheads, ready to deal with the attacks of the rock ninjas at will. The team formation was adjusted quickly, and they set off before the rock ninjas at 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock approached. The distance between the 2 sides continued to shorten. 500 meters. 300 meters. 100 meters. Soon, Qingming saw more than 100 fully armed rock ninjas at the end of his sight. They stood on the big trees on both sides of the road, staring at this side with their eyes full of vigilance. Obviously, Qingming and others' desperate rush to the barrier also brought them a lot of psychological pressure. The distance between the 2 sides continued to close. 80 meters. 50 meters. 30 meters. 20 meters. Just when the distance between the 2 sides was within 20 meters, a loud shout suddenly came from the rock ninjas. Fire! The next moment, dense kunai shot like raindrops. The powerful insight of the Sharingan allowed Qingming to keenly see some detonating tags in them. If these kunai fell into the team, not to mention whether they would cause casualties, the exploding detonating tags alone would be enough to disrupt the formation. Don't let them get close. With a thought, Qingming quickly completed the seal with both hands. And then took a deep breath until his chest bulged high, and then he exhaled violently. A large amount of wind chakra engulfed the air in front of it, spinning rapidly, forming a hurricane like a natural disaster. For a moment, not to mention the kunai, even the nearby trees and the rock ninjas in the back could not stand and were blown to the ground. What kind of ninjutsu is this? In the howling wind, some rock ninjas could be heard shouting in fear. It was no wonder that they were so panicked, because Qingming's wind style, great breakthrough, is too terrifying. Chapter 212 Kill. After a few breaths, Qingming finally stopped performing the ninjutsu, and then gasped heavily. Hearing his panting, the Konoha Jonin next to him came back to his senses from the shock, looked at Qingming, and asked with concern, "How are you?" Qingming waved his hand, calmed his breath, and said, "Nothing." He really didn't have a big problem. Just now, the reason why he was panting so hard was because he mobilized too much chakra at one time and almost lost control, which made him look a little tired. However, it was also because of this that the wind style, great breakthrough he performed was so powerful. "It's good that you're okay." Seeing Qingming's breath calm down at a speed visible to the naked eye, the Jonin next to him replied. While the two were talking, a sharp spear made of rock flew out from the mess in front of them, aiming directly at Qingming's heart. "Be careful." Seeing this, the Konoha Jonin next to him hurriedly warned. The Sharingan in Qingming's pupils spun rapidly, instantly locking onto the flight trajectory of the rock pillar spear. With a flash of his body, he easily avoided the attack. At this moment, another rock pillar spear came, followed by the third and fourth. In the blink of an eye, dozens of rock pillar spears came from the front, all aiming at Qingming. However, if one rock pillar spear didn't hit Qingming, it would be the same even if there were more than a dozen. Qingming's body flashed and easily avoided all the attacks. Not only that, He also took the opportunity to lock onto the position of the caster. He saw that while dodging, he quickly completed the seal with both hands, condensed a transparent wind blade in his palm, and then flew out as he pushed forward. A muffled groan came from not far away. With the powerful insight of the Sharingan, Qingming clearly saw that a rock village ninja was scratched on the arm by the wind blade. Seeing that the opponent had not yet stood firm, Qingming threw several more shurikens without any hesitation, aiming directly at the opponent's throat, heart and lower abdomen. Although the rock ninja tried his best to dodge, he was eventually hit by a shuriken on his left waist, which reduced his combat power. This is Qingming's ability to seize opportunities. Seeing that Qingming was going to continue attacking, the other rock ninjas finally reacted and attacked Qingming one after another. Some threw ninja tools, some performed ninjutsu, and some approached quickly. Facing such an attack, Qingming looked indifferent, pulled out the short sword at his waist, and rushed forward. His charge was like a switch, causing the Konoha ninjas behind him to rush forward. A distance of 20 meters is not far for ninjas. In almost a blink of an eye, the two sides collided. In an instant, the field was noisy. There were sounds of ninjas fighting each other, sounds of ninja tools colliding with each other, and sounds of detonating tags exploding in the crowd. In short, all kinds of noises were heard. Qingming held a short sword and weaved through the rock ninja team, dodging attacks and stabbing from time to time, and almost every sword of his would kill or injure an enemy. The reason for this is very simple. Every time his opponent saw him draw his sword, he would stand still. Then, he would let him attack like a lamb to be slaughtered. Although the whole process was a little weird, this was the power of the illusion sword technique. As long as there was no way to be immune to his instant illusion Sharingan, facing his illusion sword technique, one could only wait for death. For ordinary middle and lower ninjas, unless someone helped, it would be a matter of one sword in Qingming's hands. Qingming's Sharingan was fully activated, and any movement around him could not be hidden from his eyes. He dodged the attacks of the rock ninjas while looking for opportunities. And as long as he found an opportunity to stab with a sword, a rock ninja would fall. Finally, after he killed 7 or 8 Iwagakure Junior ninjas in succession, an Iwagakure Jonin came over and tried to stop his killing. However, Qingming ignored him and avoided all the attacks of the other party in a flash, and came to a group of Iwagakure ninjas again. The Iwagakure Jonin was stopped by a Konoha Jonin. Qingming looked at the other party, who nodded to Qingming, and then fought with the Iwagakure Jonin. Qingming retracted his gaze and started the unparalleled killing mode again. Normally, he would not do this, but this time the situation was special. They had to break through the obstruction of the Iwagakure ninjas in front of them as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the Iwagakure ninjas from the other two directions came to support them, they would be in danger. As the saying goes, it is better to die than to die. In this case, Qingming naturally could not talk about the unspoken rules of the battlefield. What he had to do now was very simple, that is, to kill through the entire Iwagakure ninja team and let his own people pass as quickly as possible. As for the rest, it doesn't matter, time passed by every second. The entire Konoha team, with Qingming and several Jonins from the combat group as the spearhead, rushed forward quickly, and in less than 3 minutes, they passed through the blockade of the rock ninja. This speed seems a bit outrageous, but it is not. First of all, the number of Jonins on their side far exceeds that of the other side. This means that the other side cannot use absolute strength to stop the advance of their large forces. Secondly, the overall number of ninjas on their side also far exceeds that of the other side. Therefore, the other side cannot entangle them with numbers. Finally, and most importantly, with Qingming, the killing god, leading the way in front, those rock ninjas cannot organize an effective defense at all. Therefore, the entire large force can pass quickly. However, passing does not mean that everything is fine. On the contrary, the real test has just begun. It can be seen that the rock ninjas behind saw them leave, and immediately followed without any hesitation. Moreover, because the two sides separated, there was no need to worry about accidentally hurting their own people. Those rock ninjas were at full firepower and bombarded their large forces. As a last resort, Konoha could only send people to deal with it. This inevitably slowed down the team's progress. And this was the purpose of those rock ninjas. They ignored the consumption of chakra in their bodies and continuously performed powerful ninjutsu. The purpose was to delay Qingming and others. As for what to do after delaying them? Of course, friendly forces will take over. Speak of the devil, and the devil will appear. Just over a minute later, the Rock Ninja teams at 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock caught up. Although they missed the best time and the three teams could no longer form a siege on them, the increase in the number of people alone made Qingming and others feel pressured. Despite this, Qingming and others still did not stop their pace. They knew very well that if they stopped at this time, what awaited them would be a steady stream of enemies. Only by charging forward could they return to the Fengliu town stronghold. Even if many people would die in the process, this was the best result. Chapter 213 The Final Obstacle. In a flash, several hours passed. It was evening. It started to rain heavily. Qingming and the others came to a jungle in the rain. After fighting and fleeing all the way, they were exhausted and needed to rest. Kingshin, Narasishu looked at Hinata Kingshin beside him and said. Hinata Kingshin understood what he meant, nodded, and forced himself to be alert. He put his hands on his chest and opened his Byakugan again. The next moment, veins popped up on both sides of his eyes, and everything within a kilometer around him entered his field of vision. After a while, he closed his Byakugan and said in a deep voice, "There are no large enemy forces within a kilometer, only some scattered ninjas are monitoring." Very good. Hearing this, Narasishu breathed a sigh of relief, then turned to look at Qingming and said, "Qingming, those monitors are left to you. Kingshin, you assist." "Okay," Hinata Kingshin responded, and Qingming walked straight out of the team without saying a word. The continuous killings had exhausted him physically and mentally, and Qingming didn't want to say a word now. Seeing Qingming leave, Narasishu nodded to Hinata Kingshin, motioning him to follow. Soon, the two left the main force. Well, to call it a large force is actually a bit of a misnomer. In the past day, in order to avoid being dragged down and then surrounded, they almost never stopped running. However, by doing so, the marching speed increased, but it also prevented many Konoha ninjas who were entangled on the way from getting help, and eventually they could only be captured or killed by the rushing E1 ninjas. Therefore, the team's personnel reduction was very serious. Compared with the beginning, the number of people in their team is now about half, which can't really be called a large force. About a quarter of an hour later, Qingming walked back from the other side. His expression was still numb, and when he saw Narasishu, he just nodded at him without saying much. At the back, Hyuga Aoyama said, "All surveillance points within a 1-kilometer radius have been removed. We have at least half an hour to rest. There are also advantages to having fewer people, that is, the speed of escape is fast enough, and the large group of rock ninjas can't catch up at all. Now, the surveillance point is gone, and it is raining heavily. If the rock ninjas want to find them, it will take more effort. Of course, the premise is that they don't rest here. After all, the situation here is likely to have been reported by the rock ninjas responsible for surveillance. Therefore, if you want to rest, you have to catch up for a while." So, the Konoha team set off again soon. And not long after they left, several more rock ninja reconnaissance teams came here. They carefully distinguished the traces on the ground, and then chased in the direction where Qingming and others left. And behind them, there was the large group of rock ninjas. Now, the rock ninjas are more than just 3 teams of 100 people. After a day of pursuit and interception, their current number has exceeded 700. Even so, it was the result of Qingming and others killing a lot along the way, otherwise there would be more. They checked the marks left by the reconnaissance team, and then chased in the direction where Qingming and others left. In this way, the two sides fought wits and courage, and one night passed quickly. The next day, early morning, Qingming and others looked at the more than 100 rock ninjas blocking the road in front of them, and their expressions were quite ugly. It seemed that they were about to escape the pursuit of the rock ninjas and enter the radiation range of the Fengliu town stronghold, but suddenly such a group of people came to block the road. No one would be happy. If it was just an ordinary team of 100 people, it would be fine. Although they only had about the same number of people left, they had absolute confidence to defeat the opponent. But these rock ninjas in front of them were not ordinary. Not to mention that there was almost no Sharingan among them. The spirit and energy on their bodies alone were not comparable to ordinary ninja teams. There is no doubt that this is an elite team. And the rock ninja at the head also proved this point. It was none other than the rock hidden ninja who had just fought with Qingming not long ago. As soon as Qingming saw the opponent, he knew that today's level would not be easy. There is no other reason. As long as the other party has some brains and does not confront him head-on, there will be no less casualties on their side in the end. Qingming was afraid of Shou, But he did not know that Sho was also afraid of him. Sho had seen the battles of the past day. Qingming's performance was extremely brilliant. The damage he caused to the rock ninja alone was almost a quarter of the total losses. Even so, Qingming still did not see any signs of weakness. This made Sho very afraid of him. It was for this reason that he carefully selected the subordinates who were responsible for blocking Qingming and others this time, and organized a group of elites before daring to come. In the rain, the two sides confronted each other. I don't know who shouted kill, and the battle broke out instantly. At the beginning, both sides fired a round of kunai, but unfortunately everyone was elite, and such an attack obviously could not have much impact on the other side. Fortunately, neither side had any expectations for this round of attack, and just regarded it as a greeting. The next close combat was the focus. Kill, both sides shouted and rushed towards each other, and the brutal fight began. Qingming held a short sword and killed two people in an instant. Sho was not much worse. He punched two big holes in the bodies of two Konoha shunins. Qingming did not try to stop the other party, because it would only make the other party more unscrupulous. Only by killing as crazy as the other party could he force him to focus on him and fight him head-on. Facts have proved that his bet was right. After he killed 6 Iwagakure shunins in a row, Sho finally couldn't help but rush towards him. This time, Qingming did not dodge deliberately, just quietly waiting for the other party to get close. Finally, the two of them collided. His sword was fast and accurate, and he grasped the timing well. Every time Sho was attacked, he had to dodge in advance. Similarly, the explosive chakra on Sho's fist also made Qingming extremely vigilant, and he didn't dare to let it touch him at all. So, in the eyes of outsiders, the fight between the two was almost like acting. Every time they attacked, they didn't touch each other, which looked extremely funny. However, this was only an appearance. In fact, the two were highly focused. The reason why there were no fists or swords hitting each other was that if such a thing happened, it would mean that at least one person would be seriously injured. Therefore, without absolute certainty, Qingming and Sho would not let the other party touch them. Time passed by. Seeing that the situation in the field was becoming more and more tense, Qingming knew that he could not drag it on any longer, because if he dragged it on, they would inevitably be surrounded by the large force of rock ninja. Therefore, they must leave the battlefield as soon as possible, just like the previous battle. With this thought in mind, Qingming no longer hesitated, dodged another attack from Sho, and then took a step back and suddenly opened up the distance. Then, he formed seals with both hands and performed the ninjutsu at the fastest speed, fire style, great fireball technique. Before, their battle had cleared a large area nearby. Therefore, Qingming did not have to worry about hurting his own people now, and could just perform the ninjutsu directly. The only pity was that because of the rain, the power of his fire style was weakened, and he had to consume more chakra to make up for the difference. Fortunately, he had enough chakra, so he didn't have to worry about the consumption of chakra. Chapter 214 Get rid of. Feeling the scorching heat coming from the front, Sho did not hesitate at all and dodged the fireball. But before he could stand up again, several subtle sounds of breaking through the air came over. Although the sound was barely audible in the rain, Sho, who was in a state of high tension, was still keenly aware of the threat. So, he flipped back and avoided the attack by a hair's breadth. Several kunai fell to the ground, making a sizzling sound. Hearing this familiar sound, Sho's face suddenly changed. He glanced forward and saw a detonating talisman on a kunai burning violently. At the critical moment, Sho kicked the ground and shot out like a cannonball. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. A ball of fire suddenly appeared, and a strong shock wave quickly spread around with the explosion as the center. In mid-air, Sho was hit by the shock wave and moved away even faster. Cough cough cough. After landing, Sho coughed twice, and a little blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, showing that he was not unscathed. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Several more kunai were shot out. More. Hearing this familiar sound of breaking through the air, Sho snorted coldly, quickly completed the seal with both hands, and then slapped it on the ground. When he pulled it up again, there was already a 2-meter square stone slab in front of him. Ding ding ding. The kunai shot on it, making a crisp sound. Even if the subsequent detonating talisman tied to it exploded, it did not cause any impact on Sho behind. Seeing this, Qingming did not think about it, and quickly completed the seal with both hands. He opened his mouth and spit out hundreds of fireballs, performing the fire style, Phoenix fire technique. Qingming controlled these fireballs and divided them into two groups, respectively flanking Shou from the left and right sides. Looking at the fireballs flying in front of him, Shou jumped back a few times, opened the distance, and avoided the attack. At the same time, he was not polite at all. While dodging, he quickly formed seals with both hands. The moment he landed, he slapped the ground and performed the ninjutsu, earth-style, swamp technique. In an instant, the ground under Qingming's feet, which was already wet by the rain, softened into mud, like a huge mouth of the abyss, trying to swallow Qingming in one gulp. At the critical moment, Qingming gathered chakra at the bottom of his feet, leaped up, and came to the big tree next to him. Then, he jumped again and came to another big tree before the big tree under his feet was swallowed by the swamp. However, this also gave Shou an opportunity. Before Qingming could stand firm, Shou threw several kunai and attacked his vital points. Fortunately, Qingming's Sharingan was powerful, and in just a moment, it locked the flight trajectory of all kunai. Qingming twisted his body and avoided all kunai attacks within the smallest range. For a moment, the battlefield seemed to be quiet. Qingming and Shou, one standing on a tree and the other standing under a tree, more than 20 meters apart, staring at each other, but neither of them made a move. Time passed by. The two continued to confront each other. At a certain moment, the rain suddenly became heavier, blocking Qingming's vision. Opportunity. Seeing this scene, Shou's heart moved, and his figure flashed, like a flexible monkey, rushing straight towards Qingming with the help of the big trees on both sides. A distance of more than 20 meters, even if Shou rushed from below to above, it didn't take long. Almost in the blink of an eye, he came in front of Qingming. Shou punched out, Qingming dodged sideways, and Shou's fist hit the tree trunk behind him. Boom! A violent explosion sounded. The big tree behind Qingming broke with a sound, and the scattered wood chips hit his cheek painfully. This is not over yet. Seeing that his punch missed, Shou immediately swung his left fist without any hesitation, aiming directly at Qingming's lower abdomen. Feeling the huge explosive chakra condensed on his fist, Qingming didn't dare to resist it at all. He kicked the branches with his feet and fell to the ground behind him. Seeing this, Shou wanted to continue chasing, but how could Qingming let him take the initiative all the time? Before landing, he made seals with both hands and completed the preparations for the fire-style, dragon fire technique. Then, at the moment when Shou caught up, he opened his mouth and spit out a line of fire, aiming directly at Shou in the air. Seeing this, Shou secretly said not good, raised his hands to make seals, and performed the substitution technique, increasing his speed to avoid the attack of the line of fire, while leaving a stone as a cover. Boom! The line of fire bombarded the stone, instantly breaking it into pieces. However, Shou took this opportunity to hide behind a big tree. Ha! Shou gasped and said in his heart, what a close call. However, at this moment, a meter-long transparent wind blade suddenly passed through the tree and fell on him. Instantly, blood gushed out like water, dyeing the water under his feet red. Only then did he feel the pain. Shou looked down and saw a long blood stain on his chest. On the other side, seeing this scene, Qingming put down his hands and showed a look of relief on his face. Although the opponent's action of dodging the fire-style, dragon fire technique just now was fast, it was not faster than his eyes. He saw all the actions after the substitution technique. Taking this opportunity, he completed the seal, and then performed the wind-style, wind blade at the moment when he stood still. It was only because the tree was thicker that it reduced the power of the wind blade. Otherwise, with the wind-style, wind blade he used with all his strength, he could definitely cut it in two. However, it was almost done now. Although it did not directly cut it in two, it also made him lose all his fighting power. Seeing Qingming approaching quickly, Shou used up his last bit of strength, quickly formed a seal, and performed the earth escape, earth dragon hiding technique. Swish, Qingming appeared behind the tree. Seeing Shou disappear again, his face was not very good. This is the second time. The last time was the same. After he took advantage of the kite-flying tactics, the opponent slipped away under his nose. This time was even more ruthless. He had been severely injured, but he still slipped away. But there will be no next time. Secretly making up his mind, Qingming put his mood in order, drew out the short sword again, and swept around. In the rain, the battle continued. This time, the fighting power of the rock ninja was obviously good. The ninjas on the Konoha side tried to get rid of the entanglement many times, but failed. However, these are all in the past. With the joining of Qingming, the balance of the battlefield quickly tilted. In the rock ninja team, except for Sho, whose fighting method was somewhat restrained by him, who could slightly compete with him, the rest were not his opponents at all. Even the Jonin can't do it, unless they join forces. Unfortunately, the other Jonin of Konoha didn't give them this opportunity. Therefore, Qingming's attack can be described as unscrupulous. And the result is that in just a few minutes, those middle and lower ninjas of Iwagakure were killed by him. Without the restraint of these middle and lower ninjas, those Jonins didn't dare to entangle too much. In the end, Qingming and others successfully broke through the last line of defense and entered the radiation range of the Fengliu town stronghold. The road ahead, although not absolutely safe, is not dangerous everywhere. The only thing that puzzled them was that a day had passed, and their letter for help had not received a response. That's right, as early as when they encountered the first wave of enemies, they sent a letter for help to Fengliu town. But until now, there is still no response. This gave Qingming and others a bad feeling. Today is gone. Chapter 215 Arrival and Decision. Facts have proved that their worries were not wrong. Just when they got rid of the last wave of rock ninjas and spent more than 2 hours to arrive at the Fengliu town stronghold. Only then did they realize how bad the situation here was. At the same time, they also understood why the Fengliu town stronghold did not send anyone to support them. It was not that they did not want to, but the situation really did not allow it. Now, not far from the Fengliu town stronghold, there are 2 rock ninja troops stationed. The 4-tailed Jinchuriki Laozi and the 5-tailed Jinchuriki Han are among them. This puts a lot of pressure on the Fengliu town stronghold, and they dare not send anyone to support them at all. Not only that, they are constantly requesting support from other strongholds and the rear base camp. No wonder the 4-tailed Jinchuriki and the 5-tailed Jinchuriki did not appear among the ninjas who were besieging them. It turns out that they are all here, Qingming and others suddenly realized. Before, after they knew that several nearby strongholds were breached by the 4-tailed Jinchuriki and the 5-tailed Jinchuriki, they were still worried whether these 2 people would participate in the task of besieging them. The 4-tailed Jinchuriki is not clear yet, but they have a deep understanding of the difficulty of the 5-tailed Jinchuriki Han, and the 4-tailed Jinchuriki is not much worse. Once these 2 people join the battle, their hope of escape will be extremely slim. However, what surprised them was that they did not encounter these 2 people along the way. Originally, they thought they were lucky. Now it seems that it is probably because the Fengliu town stronghold attracted their attention, which prevented them from encountering the other party. Even the real main force of the Iwagakure village was attracted here. In this way, they were able to escape. After learning about these situations, Narasishu and others were scared. According to the troops mobilized by the Iwagakure village this time, if all of them are used to deal with them, I am afraid that they will find it difficult to escape even if they have wings. And even if they escape, it is impossible for so many people to survive. Although there are not many people now, it is better than being wiped out, isn't it? You will have 1 day to rest. After 1 day, you will join the defense team and obey my orders. Do you understand? In front of Qingming and others, the commander-in-chief of Fengliu town, Omura Wiren, said in a serious voice. The order they received before was to return to Fengliu town to assist in the defense. Naturally, they would not refuse the other party's order now. However, Qingming finally asked, Captain Wiren, how long do you think it will take for the Hidden Rock village to launch an attack? Hearing this, Omura Wiren looked at him, and then said, according to the current information, it will take about a week for them to be ready. 1 week. Qingming pondered for a moment, nodded, indicating that he understood, and then stopped talking. Seeing this, Omura Wiren did not ask him why he asked this, and turned around to answer other people's questions. On the side, Qingming listened to their conversation quietly while thinking in his heart. According to his previous plan, he will suspend the practice of other skills for a period of time. All the chakras recovered every day will be put into the practice of palm immortal technique to strengthen his body with all his strength. But it will still take about 10 days for the quantitative change to achieve qualitative change, so that his body will undergo a transformation and thus improve the physique attribute. But the war will break out in a week. If it cannot be improved before then, it will be a pure waste of time. But if the chakra is invested in other skills, Qingming is a little unwilling. After all, the improvement of the physique attribute is related to the subsequent opening of the main Gekyo Sharingan. He doesn't want to postpone the plan as soon as he encounters trouble. For a while, Qingming couldn't make up his mind. But the next sentence of Omura Yudo made his eyes light up. He only heard him say, "In the next period of time, the rock ninja will definitely send small troops to test them. You have the most experience in fighting with them, and I hope you can do more by then." Yes, there are also rock ninjas. Qingming didn't plan to go back to his old business and capture these rock ninjas as chakra batteries. Now he is unfamiliar with the place and it is too risky to do so. His idea is to plunder the chakra of those rock ninjas during the mission. In this way, he can completely make up for the gap in his chakra, further speed up the strengthening of his body, and improve the physique attribute within 7 days. But in this case, he needs to plunder at least 17,000 points of chakra every day, otherwise there will not be enough time. 17,000 points. If you ignore the target's life and squeeze it with all your strength, a chunin can provide him with about 7,000 points of chakra, and 17,000 points is 2.5 people. In this way, plus some miscellaneous consumption, in order to achieve the goal, he must extract the chakra of at least 3 Iwagakure chunins every day. This difficulty does not seem to be great. However, it should be noted that during this period, he must arrange the training time and task time well, and there must be no mistakes. Otherwise, any accident may cause his plan to fail. Thinking of this in his heart, Qingming secretly made up his mind. At the same time, Omura Wuren also answered everyone's doubts and explained their subsequent task arrangements. Then, let them rest. Fengliu town was originally a small town with many houses. Although many of them were damaged due to the wars, there were still many places where people could live. Qingming was assigned a room. After returning to his residence, Qingming did not rush to rest, but washed his face, refreshed himself, and then began to practice the palm immortal technique. Today, he still had a lot of chakra to use, and Qingming did not intend to waste it, so he had to hurry up to practice the palm immortal technique. As the yang escape chakra condensed, Qingming felt a warm current flowing in his body, along the chakra meridians, into the cells of various organs, and began to nourish and strengthen those cells. About 3 minutes later, the yang escape chakra was consumed and the strengthening effect disappeared. Qingming formed a seal again and performed the palm immortal technique. In this way, Qingming maintained a frequency of once every 3 minutes, and performed the palm immortal technique one after another, using the yang escape chakra that he condensed to slowly promote the evolution of his body. As time passed, Qingming gradually immersed himself in the strengthening. It was not until the evening that he stopped practicing after all the chakra he could use today was used up. At this time, Qingming was already very sleepy. But he still forced himself to be energetic, got some food, and after filing his stomach, he fell asleep. Only with adequate nutrition can the amount of chakra be restored, otherwise it would be straining the body, and Qingming didn't want any accidents to happen now. Therefore, timely replenishment after practice is also very important. Chapter 216 Evolution and the Ghost Corpse Clan. 1 day later. The rest time was over. Qingming began to lead the team to carry out the mission under the arrangement of Omura Yudo. Fengliu town is located at the foot of the mountain. The west and north are less than 200 meters away from the mountain. It is an extremely important strategic island. The south is the plain leading to the rear base camp, and the east is stationed with a large force of rock ninjas. Therefore, they have 3 main field missions. The first is to meet the support troops from the south. The second is to monitor the movements of the large force of rock ninjas in the east to ensure that they get the news as soon as they launch an attack. As for the third one, it is to fight with a small force of rock ninjas in the mountains in the west and north to prevent the other party from seizing these 2 strategic islands. In order to ensure that enough chakra can be obtained every day, Qingming did not hesitate and directly asked to carry out the third task. And Omura Yudo did not have any objections and agreed directly. It's not that he is easy to talk to, but in the past day, he carefully learned about the relevant situation of Qingming and others along the way. Knowing that Qingming's combat power far exceeds that of ordinary Jinin, they could not escape here smoothly without Qingming's extraordinary combat power. Therefore, after hearing Qingming's request, he agreed immediately without any hesitation. As a result, Qingming naturally became a member of the garrison in the western mountain stronghold, and encountered a small infiltration force of rock ninja as he wished. There is no need to say much about the battle process. With Qingming's current strength, it would be difficult for him to overturn even if he wanted to. In this way, he successfully obtained the chakra he wanted. With sufficient chakra, Qingming no longer wasted time, and almost every minute and every second was using Yang escape chakra to strengthen his body. Fortunately, practicing palm fairy technique does not require any quiet environment, so he can also strengthen himself during the execution of the mission. In this way, although it seems a bit strange, Qingming does not care. Anyway, after this war, there are not many people who can survive, so there is no need to worry about his weird behavior spreading. Moreover, even if it spreads, it doesn't matter. The practice of ninjas is relatively private, and no one will ask in person without knowing the good and the bad. As for the secret investigation, after he opens the main Gekiyo Sharingan, his strength will soar directly to the level of Kage. Who will care about the little details? In the final analysis, the ninja world is still ruled by fists. As long as his strength is sufficient, he is not afraid of others having bad intentions. It is precisely because of these considerations that Qingming hardly avoided his fellow team members when he practiced the palm immortal technique to strengthen his body. Only when he absorbed chakra would he be a little more concealed. After all, chakra is the most fundamental thing for every ninja. Once someone knows that he can absorb chakra, and it is so efficient to squeeze the body and forcibly extract chakra. Even if he doesn't say it, he will be instinctively on guard in his heart. Qingming doesn't want to cause trouble, so it's better not to let them know. Fortunately, his chakra absorption technique has already reached level 5, which can extract 1,000 points of chakra from the target per second. It only takes 7 or 8 seconds to drain the chakra of a chunin. Therefore, it is not too troublesome to cover it up. In this way, Qingming solved many difficulties and began to strengthen his body according to the plan. In the blink of an eye, time came to 7 days later. That afternoon, when Qingming once again performed the palm immortal technique, the Yang escape chakra in his body began to wonder and strengthen his body cells. An indescribable force suddenly erupted. It was like a volcano that had been accumulated for a long time suddenly erupted, rampaging in his body, and began to push his body and strengthen rapidly. Qingming's face changed slightly, and he suddenly stopped. On the side, several Konoha chunin saw this and thought he had discovered something, and hurriedly alerted. After a long while, someone carefully said, "Captain, what happened?" Qingming heard this, endured the discomfort of his body, waved his hand, and said, "Stop here first, be alert." After that, regardless of what several subordinates thought, he flashed and came to a huge rock next to him, sat cross-legged, and slowly closed his eyes. In an instant, everything around him seemed to be away from Qingming. He began to concentrate most of his mind on his body, and began to sort out a power to make it softer. Qingming really didn't expect that this evolution would be so violent, and he was a little caught off guard. Fortunately, this power was transformed from his foundation, otherwise it might hurt him if it rushed through his body. As his mind joined in and began to sort it out, the changes were no longer so drastic. Qingming also felt the same comfortable feeling as when his body evolved before. Time passed by minute. In a blink of an eye, an hour passed. Just when several Konoha chunin outside were getting impatient, Qingming finally opened his eyes. "Captain." Seeing this, several people hurriedly spoke up and wanted to ask something, but they were interrupted by Qingming raising his hand. Then, he looked at a place in the forest and said lightly, "Since you are here, why don't you show up?" "What?" Several chunin subordinates were shocked when they heard this, and hurriedly took out their kunai and looked in the direction of Qingming's gaze. However, there was no movement over there. Several subordinates could not help but have some doubts about Qingming's judgment. Although they were concerned about Qingming just now, their vigilance did not decrease at all. If the enemy had touched here, they should have noticed something. But in fact, they found nothing. Just when they were confused, a sound of applause came. Pa pa pa. Then, there was a creepy laugh and a series of footsteps. "Ha ha ha, worthy of being the ghost sword Qingming, your perception is really sharp." As he spoke, a figure appeared in the field. His body was shriveled and his clothes were tattered. Although he was smiling, the expression on his face was particularly strange, just like a corpse. Yes, it was a corpse. Not only him, but also the few people behind him were the same. There was no vitality that a living person should have. It was precisely because of this that several chunin under Qingming did not notice the approach of these people. Only Qingming sensed a little mental fluctuation and discovered the abnormality. Looking at these people, Qingming frowned and asked, "Who are you? Why are you looking for me?" "That's right, these people are not Iwagakure ninjas. They don't have the logo of the Iwagakure village on them, or in other words, They don't have the logo of any ninja village. Therefore, it is highly likely that they are not ninjas from the major ninja villages. Considering the behavior style of Inoki and Iwagakure village, Qingming already had some guesses in his mind. Just when he was thinking about it, the shriveled figure spoke. Who are we? Ha, it doesn't matter if I tell you, we are the great Onishiki clan. Ha. The first half of the sentence was said by the man alone, but the second half was said in unison with the people behind him. Even the laughter was heard at the same time. In an instant, the field was filled with creepy laughter. Suddenly, Qingming seemed to have noticed something and shouted, "Be careful, block your hearing immediately, this is an illusion." What? Several Konoha Chunins heard this and their expressions changed drastically. They realized that they had smiled unconsciously. They were horrified and quickly blocked their ears. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Bounty Ninja. Seeing that Qingming instantly saw through his illusion, Yalga simply stopped wasting chakra and stopped casting illusions. Gradually, the laughter in the field disappeared. At this time, several Konoha Chunin put down their hands, but the expressions on their faces were still a little frightened. Qingming, on the other hand, was still indifferent. He did not rush to take action, but looked at Yalga and asked again, "Why did you look for me? Why?" "Of course it's for money." Yalga did not mean to hide anything and said directly, "Someone has put a reward on your head on the black market." "I am just the first one." Black market? Qingming pondered for a moment and murmured, "Is it really a bounty ninja?" In fact, as early as when he found that the other party did not have any ninja village logo on him and was not dressed like an Anbu ninja at all, he roughly guessed his identity. Moreover, even the person who put the reward behind him was roughly guessed. If nothing unexpected happens, it should be Inoki, who always likes to use external forces to solve the village's troubles. Later, the growth of the Akatsuki organization was inseparable from his contribution. In this case, it is normal to use the bounty ninja to get rid of him. Qingming has another proof for this. That is, this place is located in the center of the battlefield. Without the secret help of Konoha or Iwagakure, it is impossible for anyone to pass through the layers of blockade and reach here. Konoha. Not very likely. Even if it is Danzo, it is impossible to attack him in this situation. At least he will use up his surplus value before taking action. Therefore, it can only be Iwagakure village. But the Demon Corpse clan? What is this? Qingming was puzzled. Whether in his previous life or this life, he had never heard of this name. The Demon Corpse clan, the name sounds like a bloodline family. But, he has never heard of it. In this case, there are only two possibilities. One is that the other party is just a very small family, and the so-called greatness is just a self-flattering. The second is that this family was destroyed in this ninja world war, and there was no news afterwards. Wait, suddenly, Qingming thought of the third possibility, that is, this family does not exist at all, and the so-called Demon Corpse clan is just a fabrication of the other party. With this thought, Qingming opened his Sharingan and carefully observed the other party and the people behind him. Seeing this, the ghost, whether he was guilty or not, did not say a word and directly ordered the people behind him to attack. Qingming did not move. The first to attack were his subordinates, while he just stood quietly and observed their every move. As soon as they fought, several Konoha Chunin suffered a loss. There was no other reason, these people were not afraid of getting hurt at all. As the name of the Kishi clan said, they launched a suicidal attack on several Konoha Chunin. Several Konoha Chunin had never seen such a battle and were caught off guard. After that, they were almost suppressed. Qingming could see that even if they did not use the mutual destruction style of fighting, these people's strength was higher than that of ordinary Chunin. In this way, regardless of whether they were injured or not, they could even contain ordinary Jonin with their combined strength. I just don't know if they have other means? Just as Qingming was thinking this, a Konoha Chunin found an opportunity to hit the man on the opposite side with a kunai, which went straight into his brain. However, before the Chunin could be happy, a strange smile suddenly appeared on his face. The next moment, his body suddenly swelled, as if it was about to explode, and some patterns that were obviously curse-like appeared on his body. Suddenly, a sense of crisis came over him. The Konoha Chunin hurriedly retreated, But it was too late. Seeing that the man on the opposite side was about to self-destruct, Qingming appeared beside him at the critical moment. Then, he grabbed his arm, kicked the ground with both feet, and shot out like a cannonball. Boom! A dull explosion sounded. The man completed the self-destruction, and the dark blood in his body mixed with bone and flesh fragments shot out, instantly covering a radius of 10 meters. When everything settled, it was seen that in this area, whether it was flowers, trees, soil, or rocks, they were all riddled with holes shot by bone fragments. It is conceivable that once a person is in this situation, what kind of danger will he encounter? Qingming put down the Konoha Chunin and looked at Yaoge vigilantly. Apart from anything else, this self-explosion alone is dangerous enough. Moreover, Qingming looked around. He saw dense figures appearing in the forest and silently surrounded them. Seeing this, several Konoha Chunin hurriedly got rid of their opponents and came to Qingming, whispering, "Captain, what should we do? What should we do?" Yaoge sneered when he heard his question. Without waiting for Qingming to answer, he said, "My target is Uchiha Qingming. You should know what's good for you and get out of here." Although several people knew that the other party was trying to sow discord, they couldn't help but glance at Qingming with their peripheral vision. However, Qingming's expression did not change from beginning to end. He looked at Yaoge, looked around, and said, "These are actually you." "What do you mean?" Yaoge asked, pretending to be puzzled. However, no matter how he pretended, he could not hide it from Qingming's eyes. After he said these people are all him, a trace of panic flashed in the other party's eyes. This made Qingming instantly confirm his guess. So, he smiled confidently, ignored the other party, turned his head and said to several subordinates beside him, "Protect yourselves." After that, he jumped and pounced on the ghost not far away. Even before leaving, he cast the illusion Sharingan. Even though they were 20 or 30 meters apart, the other party was still controlled by him. In this way, before the other ghost corpses could react, he had already arrived in front of the ghost, and then swung out with a sword and chopped off the other party's head. Then, I saw its head fly straight out, hit a big tree, and then fell heavily to the ground, rolling 7 or 8 meters away. It was also at this time that the other party broke free from the illusion, and when he looked at Qingming again, his eyes were full of anger and malice. He opened and closed his mouth, making the sound of an old man panting, which was hoarse and uncomfortable to listen to. What a ghost sword! Uchiha Qingming, you can't kill me. After saying that, he controlled the corpse next to Qingming and self-destructed at a faster speed than the previous ghost corpse. Boom! Flesh and bone fragments were spread all over the ground, but there was no trace of Qingming. The next moment, another head flew out. Qingming appeared 20 meters away and chopped off a person's head with a sword again. Then, before the head fell to the ground, Qingming disappeared again. In this way, Qingming moved 3 times in a row and chopped off the heads of 3 people. It was not until this time that the ghost reacted and began to control all the nearby ghost corpses to attack Qingming. Explosions sounded one after another in the field, forcing Qingming to dodge. For a time, Qingming's movements were greatly restricted. At the same time, all the nearby ghost corpses made the sound of ghosts. They looked at Qingming and kept saying, "Uchiha Qingming, stop struggling. It's meaningless. We are immortal. You can't defeat us. Give up." The voices of these ghost corpses were like devilish sounds filling Qingming's ears, constantly stimulating Qingming's auditory nerves, trying to influence his will. Unfortunately, it was useless. Qingming never said a word, but just carefully cleaned up the ghost corpses in the field. Chapter 218 Speculation and Promotion. Time passed by minute. The number of ghost corpses in the field was reduced at a speed visible to the naked eye. Qingming shuttled through them, swinging the short sword in his hand one after another, chopping off heads one by one. During this period, he found that these ghost corpses not only had outstanding melee capabilities and could perform some simple ninjutsu, but also could spray out a kind of poisonous mist. Well, it is not quite accurate to call it poisonous mist. In essence, it is more like a kind of bacteria. Once it is contaminated with a living person, it will multiply rapidly and then erode the human body, making the host's movements gradually become slow and stiff. Finally, it will be transformed into the appearance of a ghost corpse. However, this trick did not work for Qingming. Generally, before the poisonous mist approached, he would perform wind-style, great breakthrough to blow it away. Then, waiting for these ghost corpses was a new round of massacre. As the massacre progressed, Qingming found that the state of the ghosts was getting worse and worse. Generally, rational people, seeing that the situation was not good, would evacuate first after weighing the pros and cons, and then find a way to get back on the scene. But what about the ghosts? It seemed that he had no idea of this. As Qingming killed more and more ghost corpses, the opponent's emotions began to get out of control. In the end, the whole person almost turned into a beast, completely lost his judgment, and only knew to attack Qingming. This surprised Qingming. However, he did not delve into it. The current situation was just a trivial episode for him. Now, he just wanted to solve this trouble as soon as possible, and then check the impact of this body transformation. A quarter of an hour later, after Qingming chopped off the head of a ghost corpse again, the number of ghost corpses remaining in the field became 3. Even so, they still did not retreat, and continued to roar and rush towards Qingming. Seeing this, Qingming was not polite, and flashed forward, swishing a few swords, and chopped off the heads of 2 ghost corpses again. Suddenly, there was only 1 ghost corpse left in the field. Just when Qingming thought that the opponent would continue to attack, it suddenly stopped, and the madness on his face became calm at a speed visible to the naked eye. Qingming sighed and stopped temporarily. Seeing the other party like this, he seemed to have regained his sanity. He wanted to know what the other party would do next. The ghost who had regained his sanity briefly glanced at the bloody battlefield, and did not show any strangeness to the death of those ghost corpses. Then, he looked at Qingming, and saw that he was unharmed, and a trace of fear that was difficult to hide flashed in his eyes. Uchiha Qingming, you are very strong, you are really strong. The ghost looked at Qingming and said word by word. His voice was hoarse and dry, and it was very uncomfortable to hear people's ears. Qingming did not respond to the other party's words. Seeing this, the ghost suddenly laughed. Laughing, he suddenly changed his tone, and his expression suddenly became extremely crazy. He only heard him roar, "But you can't kill me, I am immortal." After saying this, he blew himself up. The next moment, a thick dark green poison fog that looked like liquid appeared and quickly spread around, forcing Qingming to retreat several steps. When he stood still, the poison fog had disappeared, as if it had all merged into the earth. Qingming carefully felt it for a moment, and suddenly seemed to understand something. He quickly came to Konoha Chunin, who was the unlucky guy before. At this time, the other party was shriveled up, like a ghost corpse. Qingming was not sure whether the other party was dead before, so he did not kill him. But now, Qingming is sure that the other party is really dead. There is no other reason. Just after the ghost exploded, some dark green liquid also seeped out of the other party's body surface, and then quickly drilled into the ground. Then, he completely lost his life, and his body quickly rotted. Qingming looked at the disappeared poison fog and had some guesses in his heart. If he guessed correctly, these poison fogs were ghosts. The other party should have used some method to place his spirit on the bacteria-like things that made up these poison fogs. The ghost corpse is just a shell, or a petri dish, for the ghosts in the poison mist to survive and reproduce. So, theoretically speaking, as long as there is a little poison mist, the other party has the possibility of resurrection, which is more in line with the other party's immortality. However, Qingming estimates that if there is too little surviving poison mist, the possibility of the other party's resurrection should be very small. This is equivalent to dividing the spirit into countless parts, most of which are destroyed, so the difficulty of resurrection can be imagined. Moreover, even if it is resurrected in this way, the temperament may change greatly. At that time, it is hard to say whether the other party is still himself. If it repeats several times, the other party may even lose the most basic thinking logic and emotional elements as a human being. The final result is probably to become a pool of living bacteria. Thinking of this, Qingming couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It is worthy of being a twisted world. There are really many lunatics and geniuses. Qingming didn't know how the ghost did this, but no matter how the other party did it, it is undeniable that he is a real genius. I hope we will have the opportunity to meet again in the future. Thinking this in his heart, Qingming stood up and looked at several surviving subordinates. After thinking for a while, he said, "You guys clean up the battlefield and see if there are any fish that have slipped through the net." "Yes, Captain," several people responded and left in all directions. When they walked away, Qingming couldn't wait to open the proficiency panel. The next moment, the familiar light blue light screen appeared. Name, Uchiha Qingming. Age, 12 years old. Constitution, 1213. Spirit, 15 chakra. 22,500, 3,326,835,732, Bloodline, Sharingan, 3 Magatama, 9,999, 10,000, Skills, Chakra Refining Technique, LV5, 261, 5,000, LV5, 338/5000, Wind Style, Wind Blade, LV4, 750/2000, LV4, 1650, 2000, Shadow Clone Technique, LV3, 290/1000, LV3, 335/1000, Chakra Absorption Technique, LV5, 1920, 5000, LV5, 1965, 5000, Rasengan, LV4, 1390, 2000, LV4, 1700/2000, Immortal Palm Technique, LV6, 3727/10000, LV6, 6725/10000, Chakra Scalpel, LV4, 702/2000, LV4, 772/2000, Heart Reflecting Technique, LV7, 4885/20000, Sword Technique, LV6, 1350/10000, LV6, 2285/10000, Illusion Sword Technique, LV2, 20/500, LV2, 250/500, Instant Sword Technique, LV1, 160 out of 200, Chakra Control, LV4, 1805, 2000, LV4, 1965, 2000, Perfect Skills. As you can see, this time his body has undergone a transformation, and his constitution attribute has increased a bit, as expected, from 12 to 13. Thanks to this, his potential has been further improved, and the theoretical upper limit of chakra has increased from 44,000 points to 56,000 points. In addition, due to the improvement of his physique, his body's ability to withstand pressure has also been strengthened, which allows him to extend the time of running the chakra refining technique by 1 hour every day. If that were the case, the chakra he can recover every day would only increase by about 2,000 points. In fact, the increase is far more than that. In fact, this is just a small part. The real big part is actually the speed at which the body recovers chakra by itself after the physique is enhanced. With a superposition of the two, Qingming estimates that the chakra he can recover every day will increase from the previous 33,000 to about 42,000. There is no doubt that this is a significant improvement, and all his skills will benefit from it. In addition, as his physique attribute increases from 12 points to 13 points, it is one step closer to the spiritual attribute of 15 points. This means that he is one step closer to safely opening the main Gekyo Sharingan. Even Qingming feels that he can try to open it now. Looking at the 9,999/10000, 3 Magatama Sharingan, Qingming hesitated for a moment, but finally suppressed the idea. Since he had endured for so long, there was no point in giving up halfway. Qingming decided to wait a little longer, until he raised the physique attribute to 14 points, and then try to open the main Gekyo Sharingan. By then, even if the mental power surged and put pressure on the body, it should not be fatal. Well, let's do it. In an instant, Qingming made up his mind. Chapter 219 Outbreak. With the decision, Qingming immediately set his sights on the Palm Immortal Technique. According to the current strengthening effect of the Palm Immortal Technique on the body, Qingming estimated that it would take at least 2 months to increase the physique attribute from 13 points to 14 points. There is no doubt that this time is a bit long. Qingming does not want to wait so long. Then there are only two ways. One is to increase the input of chakra, and the other is to increase the level of the Palm Immortal Technique. The former, the Palm Immortal Technique, strengthens the body. It takes time. According to the frequency of once every 3 minutes, even if you only sleep 4 hours a day, you can only perform it 400 times a day at most. So, according to past experience, it will take at least 1 month for his body to complete the transformation. That's it, and it doesn't matter whether the chakra is sufficient. If you take some miscellaneous things into consideration, it will be impossible to succeed without 1.5 months. Therefore, what he should do is actually to improve the level of the Palm Immortal Technique. The above time is estimated according to the effect of the Palm Immortal Technique at level 6, But if its level is increased to level 7, the result will naturally be greatly different. Based on the changes before and after the promotion of the Palm Immortal Art to level 6, Qingming can be sure that once his Palm Immortal Art is promoted to level 7, the effect will be greatly enhanced. Correspondingly, the time required to accumulate enough foundation for the body to undergo transformation will be greatly reduced. After frequent use these days, the proficiency of his Palm Immortal Art has reached level 6, 6725/10000, which is not far from level 7. Qingming made a brief calculation and found that it would only take about 490,000 chakras to upgrade it to level 7. Now, he can recover 42,000 chakras every day. In other words, it will only take about 11 days for his Palm Immortal Art to be successfully promoted. If he can get some extra chakra every day, such as 17,000 points, then this time will be shortened to 9 days. If he gets more extra chakra, then this time will be further shortened. Using less than 10 days in exchange for faster progress later, it can be said that this is a sure-win business. The key is that in this process, he can also use the Palm Immortal Art appropriately to strengthen his body, as long as it does not waste time. In this way, both Method 1 and Method 2 are taken care of, which can be said to kill two birds with one stone. Now, the only thing to consider is whether the Hidden Rock Village will give him this time. According to what Omura said before, a week is enough for the Hidden Rock Village to be ready. In other words, from today on, the opponent may launch a full-scale attack at any time. Once the fight starts, the surroundings will be in chaos, and it will be impossible to strengthen the body at ease at that time. This is also one of the reasons why he plans to give priority to improving the level of the Palm Immortal technique. After all, if you just want to increase your proficiency, you don't need a specific environment, even if the surroundings are a little chaotic. Maybe he can also take advantage of the opportunity to treat the wounded to further speed up the speed of accumulating proficiency in the Palm Immortal technique. In addition, once the war begins, some trivial things will not attract too many people. At that time, as long as he is careful, he can completely extract more chakra from the rock ninja. In this way, with the superposition of the two, Qingming feels that his Palm Immortal technique is very likely to be promoted in advance. Just when Qingming was secretly thinking about a follow-up plan, several of his subordinates came back. Seeing this, Qingming closed the panel, stood up and looked at the few people, saying, "How is it? Did you find anything?" Several people shook their heads and said, "We have checked the surrounding area, and there are no fish that have escaped the net." "Where's the rock ninja?" Qingming asked again. "No one either," one of them replied. Hearing this, Qingming pondered for a moment, and then said, "No matter what, let's continue the patrol mission." "Yes, Captain," several people responded, cleaned up the bodies of their companions on the ground, and then continued the patrol mission with Qingming. In a blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. That night, Qingming was resting in the base on the high mountain in the west. Suddenly, an extremely huge pressure came, which made people feel creepy. Qingming opened his eyes suddenly, picked up the short sword next to him, flashed out of the tent, and jumped a few times, and came to a big tree. With a thud, Qingming opened his Sharingan. Under the bright moonlight, he saw a figure covered with dark red chakra, and a violent aura came from the other party. Qingming recognized it at a glance. This was the state of the Jinchuriki's half-tailed beast transformation. And now, there were only two Jinchuriki nearby. One was the four-tailed Jinchuriki, Laozi, and the other was the five-tailed Jinchuriki, Han. He remembered the aura of King Yu in Han's body. It was not this one, so there was only one answer. This was the four-tailed Jinchuriki, Laozi. Is the rock ninja going to launch a general attack? Qingming guessed in his heart. The next moment, Laozi's action confirmed his guess. He opened his mouth wide, and a large number of blue chakra balls and a small number of purple-black chakra balls condensed in the air, and then quickly merged, finally forming a high-density chakra ball as black as ink. This was nothing else but the famous tailed beast ball. Then, the tailed beast ball flew out and hit Qingming directly. Oh, it's a bit inaccurate to say it was Qingming's side. The other party was actually aiming at the Fengliu town stronghold, sandwiched between Qingming and the rock ninja camp. Seeing that the tailed beast ball was about to hit the town, at the critical moment, a figure appeared in the air, in front of the tailed beast ball. He had striking yellow hair, a gentle face, and strong self-confidence in his blue eyes. Who else could it be but Minato Namikaze? Qingming was not surprised by the appearance of Minato Namikaze. There was no other reason. He knew that the other party was coming 2 days ago, or all the Johnny knew that the other party was coming. As for the purpose, there is no need to ask, of course, it is to deal with the Jinchuuriki. Since it is known that the Hidden Rock Village has mobilized 2 human pillars to prepare to attack the Fengliu town stronghold, how could Konoha not be prepared at all? Look, Minato Namikaze is here. Of course, the other party came to carry out such a dangerous mission. In addition to contributing to the village, it may also be intended to protect Uzumaki Kushina. After all, it stands to reason that the enemy has dispatched the Jinchuuriki, and in response, Konoha should also use the Jinchuuriki. But Uzumaki Kushina did not come, so Minato Namikaze had to take it. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind, and Qingming continued to look at the battlefield. The moment Minato Namikaze appeared, he quickly completed the seal with both hands, and then pressed in the void, and a huge seal formation was formed instantly. And in the center of the seal formation, there was a dark space crack. This is not another move, but a special teleportation formation evolved from the Flying Thunder God technique Flying Thunder God Guide Lightning. The moment the tailed beast ball touched it, it was immediately bound by force, and then Minato Namikaze threw it along the space crack to the plane in the distance. Boom! A huge explosion sounded, and a dazzling white light appeared. Everyone who saw this scene, whether it was Konoha ninja or Iwagakure ninja, couldn't help but open their mouths. Not to mention the power of the tailed beast ball, Minato Namikaze, who could transfer the tailed beast ball out of thin air, made people feel even more unfathomable. It was also at this time that everyone realized that the yellow flash had actually arrived on the battlefield. For a moment, the ninjas on our side cheered and the enemy ninjas were afraid. As the saying goes, a man's reputation is like a tree's shadow. Even if you have never seen Minato Namikaze in action, as long as you have heard of his achievements, you will feel a little awe for him. Today is over. Chapter 220 Melee. After a few breaths, the shock wave came from afar. In the field, whether it was Konoha ninja or Iwagakure ninja, they couldn't help but raise their hands to cover their faces to block the shock wave. Even Qingming on the high mountain in the west was affected and squinted his eyes. The power of this tailed beast jade is really amazing. From Lao Zi's behavior, it is not difficult to guess that Iwagakure wanted to take advantage of the night to catch Konoha off guard and directly flatten Fengliu town. Unfortunately, Konoha was too alert and they failed. And Lao Zi couldn't release such an attack a second time in a short period of time. As for the five-tailed Jinchuuriki Han, with the opponent's current control over the tailed beast chakra, it is not enough to release such an attack, unless he completely gives his body to the tailed beast and completely transforms into a tailed beast. However, in that case, it is equivalent to releasing the five tails. And the five tails will not care whether you are a ninja from Iwagakure or Konoha, and will only attack indiscriminately after coming out. Therefore, Iwagakure did not dare to let Lao Zi and Han completely transform into tailed beasts. Even, they dared not let the two maintain the half-tailed beast state for a long time, fearing that they would be occupied by the tailed beasts and cause disasters. So, Jinchuuriki is indeed a powerful weapon, but before it is completely released, it is not enough to completely control the situation. In terms of strength, it is equivalent to having a few more Jonin. It is for this reason that Konoha dared to confront the Hidden Rock Village here, otherwise it would have slipped away long ago, or sent more strong men to fight, kill. Although the sneak attack did not succeed, the arrow was on the string and had to be shot. A figure in the Hidden Rock Village team shouted loudly. Then, the densely packed Hidden Rock ninjas, like ants, split into three groups and rushed towards the Fengliu town stronghold in a fan shape. At the same time, the ninjas on the Konoha side also walked out of the building, split into small groups, and faced the Hidden Rock ninjas in the form of small teams. The battle broke out instantly. After a while, the field became a mess. Under the moonlight, the Rock Ninja and the Konoha Ninja were intertwined, and the sounds of fighting and shouting resounded throughout the battlefield. On the high mountain in the west, Qingming had planned to wait and see for a while, but soon someone reported, "Captain, there is an enemy approaching us." "Which direction?" Qingming asked. "Southeast." Hearing this, Qingming looked to the southeast. Then, at the foot of the mountain, more than 200 Rock Ninja were seen approaching rapidly. At most, they would reach the top of the mountain in a quarter of an hour. Needless to say, their purpose must be to occupy this high ground. As for what is the use of occupying this place? You know, the big killers in the ninja world are not only the tailed beasts, Not to mention the chakra cannon that the hidden cloud village can attack the moon. That is a special case, and few villages can make it. But in addition to it, there is another large-scale lethal weapon that all 5 major ninja villages have, that is, the attack technique. The so-called attack technique is to engrave various powerful ninjutsu on the scroll in the form of sealing techniques. Then, when necessary, with the help of the power of several or even dozens of people, it can be released to achieve the effect of destroying the city. Just like the time when Kakashi's Chidori turned into Reikiri, the Hidden Rock Village used a large-scale attack technique. If the Hidden Rock Village occupied this high ground, then they could completely attack Fangliu Town from a high position. Of course, the above are all his guesses. Maybe the Hidden Rock Village has other ideas, but no matter what they think, he can't give up this strategic high ground. So Qingming directly ordered, "Notify everyone and prepare for battle." "Yes, Captain." Below, the Konoha Chunin responded and ran away. Then, everyone in the rear camp began to disperse and run to various defensive positions according to the plan, ready to block the attack of the Hidden Rock Ninja. On the treetops, Qingming opened the panel and glanced at it. Chakra. 28,506, 36,500. After thinking about it, he began to perform the palm immortal technique to consume the chakra in his body. Once every 10 seconds, about a quarter of an hour later, when the chakra in his body dropped to about 20,000 points, he stopped. Qingming did this not because he had too much chakra and had no place to use it, but to make room for the chakra that was about to be obtained. As for where the chakra came from, there was no need to ask. Of course, it was those rock ninjas at the foot of the mountain. In Qingming's eyes, these people had become tools specifically for providing him with chakra. Of course, just in case, he did not let the chakra in his body drop too much. 20,000 points of chakra are enough to deal with most dangers. If 20,000 points of chakra are not enough, then even a few thousand more chakras will not be of much use. Therefore, Qingming plans to maintain the chakra in his body at about 20,000 points for the next period of time, and consume the excess when there is time. In this way, his palm immortal technique should be able to be promoted to level 7 soon. By then, the effect of strengthening the body will definitely be greatly improved. Boom! Just as Qingming was imagining the future, an explosion suddenly sounded, followed by the ding-ding sound of ninja tools colliding, and the sound of ninjas shouting. Qingming looked for the sound and saw that the battle had already begun. Without any hesitation, Qingming jumped down from the treetops, then dodged and ran straight to the place where the battle took place. As soon as he arrived at the battlefield, several kunai shot over. Qingming glanced casually and took their flight trajectories into his mind. His figure flashed one after another and easily avoided the attack. Qingming kept charging towards the formation of the rock ninja. More kunai and shuriken shot at him, and Qingming continued to dodge. If he couldn't dodge in time, he would wave the short sword in his hand to block. With a sound of ding-ding-ding, Qingming knocked away all the ninja tools that were shot at him. Then, he passed the front team of the rock ninja and came directly to their rear. There were more rock ninjas here, and there were basically no Konoha ninjas. In an instant, Qingming was surrounded. However, Qingming was not panicked at all, because this was his purpose. Only here could he do whatever he wanted. Looking at the group of Iwagakure middle and low ninjas rushing straight towards him, Qingming danced with his hands, completed the seal in an instant. Then turned his body, opened his mouth, and spit out a ball of flames. This is exactly the fire style, Phoenix fire technique. Retreat. Retreat quickly, be careful. The fireball was controlled by Qingming and accurately hit these Iwagakure middle and low ninjas, instantly disrupting their charge formation. Some people were even directly hit by the fireballs and fell to the ground on the spot. Seeing this, Qingming's eyes lit up, and he came to them in an instant, performed the chakra absorption technique, and grabbed them. While using them to resist the attacks of the Iwagakure ninjas, he began to forcibly extract their chakra. Chapter 221 Fishing in Troubled Waters. A few seconds later, Qingming sucked their chakra dry. Just as he was about to continue to extract the physical and spiritual energy of the two, they were suddenly killed by the attacks of other rock ninjas. Qingming felt that the spiritual energy in the two people's bodies was empty, and secretly said, "What a waste of resources." Then, he threw the bodies of the two people to the rock ninjas in front of him. Seeing this, the few people hurriedly dodged. When they regained their footing, a figure appeared beside them. The person who came was none other than Qingming. He used the two bodies as a cover, and while the attention of the rock ninjas in front was attracted, he directly appeared among them with a flash body technique. Konoha Whirlwind Qingming raised his right leg and directly did a back kick, knocking down everyone around him. The improvement of the physique attribute will not only increase his theoretical chakra limit and chakra recovery speed. Similarly, his physical fitness is also rapidly improving. Just like now, even without deliberate training, his strength and speed have surpassed most of the Jonins. Because of this, he kicked out a Konoha Gritty Whirlwind, which was no less powerful than the result of other Jonins' hard training. Looking at the people who fell to the ground, Qingming quickly swept his eyes and found the two with the most chakra among them. Then, he dodged twice in succession and caught them in his hands. Then he repeated the same trick and performed the chakra absorption technique, absorbing their chakra while using them as human shields to resist the attacks from other rock ninjas. During this period, the two wanted to resist, but they were easily resolved by him. With 1,000 points of chakra extracted per second, to be honest, they didn't have much room for resistance. The chakra in their bodies was empty in a breath. What could they use to resist? What's more, there were other rock ninjas attacking around. A few seconds later, the two died. Qingming threw them away with a little regret and was about to continue the previous operation. Suddenly, a rock ninja Jonin came from not far away. Qingming glanced at the other party, then looked at the more and more rock ninjas gathered around, and then felt the chakra in his body that was almost overflowing. After thinking for a while, he did not stop, and ran straight into the depths of the forest. The Iwagakure Jonin came to the field, looked at Qingming's back, and threw a few kunai symbolically, without any intention of chasing. As one of the people who needed to be focused on in this battle, the village named him by name, and he naturally knew Uchiha Qingming. But it was precisely because of this that he did not dare to chase rashly. Because he knew the opponent's strength very well. If he did not catch up, it would be fine. Once he really caught up, he would not be his opponent in a one-on-one fight. What's more, who knows if there is an ambush in the direction where the opponent left. So, after weighing the pros and cons, Siguang chose to give up the pursuit. Anyway, the village's task for him was to capture this high ground. As for Uchiha Qingming, whoever wants to chase can chase him, anyway, he will not take the risk. But why did the opponent rush over the team in front? Siguang was puzzled, and then began to ask the Iwagakure ninjas in the field about the situation just now. And check the bodies on the ground by the way. Unfortunately, these 4 people were killed by the rock ninjas themselves, and the situation was urgent just now, and the 4 people who were killed did not have time to tell about their chakra being extracted. Therefore, after a check and questioning, Siguang did not find anything. However, it can be predicted that once Qingming continues the operation just now, his chakra extraction will be exposed sooner or later. Qingming has been mentally prepared for this. The rock ninjas know that it is nothing, at most they will be on guard against him and cause him some trouble in extracting chakra. As for Konoha, let's not talk about whether this news will spread to Konoha. Even if it spreads, it's nothing. After all, this is not a big deal. As long as he doesn't attack his own people, no one will bother him because of this. Therefore, the extraction should be done, in the forest. Qingming stopped. After confirming that Siguang did not chase him, he did not run far. Now where he is, through the gaps in the forest, with a powerful insight of the Sharingan, he can still vaguely see those rock ninjas. Qingming calmed down his breath, and without any hesitation, he immediately began to perform the palm immortal technique to consume the chakra in his body. This time, it took more than 20 minutes for the chakra in his body to be reduced to 20,000 points. Qingming opened the proficiency panel and took a look. His palm immortal technique has been upgraded from LV6, 7,834 10,000, to LV6, 7,945, 10,000, and his proficiency has increased by 111 points. According to this progress, as long as he does it 20 more times and extracts 300,000 points of chakra, he can upgrade it to LV7. 300,000 points of chakra, this is not a small project. Qingming closed the panel with a grumble. Then, he restrained his breath and sneaked towards the team of rock ninja in the back again. As for the battle in front, according to Qingming's estimation of the strength of both sides, it should not be possible to determine the winner for a while, so he doesn't need to worry too much. Soon, he approached the rock ninja. Qingming seized the opportunity and rushed out. After a commotion, he left the battlefield again. Guang looked at the 5 corpses on the ground with a very ugly expression. That's right, Qingming chose the battlefield that Guang was in charge of this time. There's no way. Who made the other party more cowardly? As the saying goes, you should pick the soft persimmon to squeeze. Since the other party dare not pursue him, then he will naturally catch this sheep and pull it hard. Qingming is very confident in his own strength, and he also knows that if he attacks the rock ninjas in other areas, he will probably be able to escape smoothly. But there is an easy mode. Why should he choose the difficult mode? What's more, the chakra lost in the battle is also chakra. Even if the amount is small, he doesn't want to waste it in vain. So, in the next hour and a half, Qingming launched 3 raids on the area that Guang was responsible for, and extracted a total of 14 rock ninjas. In this way, including the second harvest, he got 65,000 chakras, completing 1/5 of the plan. However, it is more difficult to continue to pull the wool of the other party. It's not that Guang got tough, but that the opponent's rock ninjas were about to die, and there was no wool for him to fleece. Looking through the gap in the woods, looking at Guang who was fighting hard on the battlefield, Qingming decided to make one last big move. Carefully coming to the edge of the battlefield, Qingming seized the opportunity. Whoosh, 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 several kunai flew out, aiming directly at the vital points behind Guang. However, Guang seemed to have eyes behind his head, and dodged the attack with a flash. Not only that, he also got rid of the entanglement of the Konoha Jonin in front of him, and rushed straight to Qingming who was hiding on the side. Seeing this, Qingming was slightly stunned, as if he didn't expect the opponent to react so quickly. But immediately, he gathered his mind and went forward. Although the sneak attack was unsuccessful, he was not afraid of a head-on battle. Chapter 222 Retreat. Ding! A crisp metal collision sound rang out. Qingming swung the short sword in his hand and accurately blocked the kunai stabbed by Guang. Originally, Qingming thought that the two sides would be in a stalemate for a moment. Unexpectedly, Guang actually withdrew at the first touch. Then, he saw him using the reaction force transmitted from the sword blade, turning around, and running towards another battlefield without looking back. The whole process was so smooth, without any sign of dragging. This made Qingming stunned. The opponent was so fierce just now that he thought the opponent was going to fight him hard, and he was even prepared for it. The result is this: Qingming couldn't help but have a big question mark on his head. However, it must be said that the ability to deceive the powerful inside of the Sharingan and prevent him from noticing the true intention at the first time is also the ability of the opponent. Shaking his head, Qingming did not choose to pursue the opponent, but shifted his attention to the surviving Iwagakure middle ninja nearby. It can be seen that the strategic transfer of the leader ninja made these people all confused and at a loss, and it seemed that they might flee at any time. And Qingming's focused gaze was the last straw that broke the camel's back. They had seen Qingming's cruelty before, and they dared not confront him. So, when Qingming looked at them, these people could no longer hold on, gave up their opponents, and scattered around. Seeing this, Qingming did not say anything nonsense. He flashed his body and caught several people in succession like catching chickens, draining their chakra. Feeling the almost overflowing chakra in his body, Qingming found a place again in the name of searching for the enemy. It took more than 20 minutes to convert about 16,000 points of chakra in his body into the proficiency of palm fairy technique. After doing this, he attacked again and came to another battlefield of the blocking battle. There was no Qingming to disrupt here, so the battle situation was very tense. Qingming didn't wait too long. After finding the opportunity, he immediately attacked. In the blink of an eye, he subdued several middle and low ninjas of Iwagakure. The chakra absorption technique was performed, and Qingming used both hands to drain their chakra in less than 10 seconds. In the end, before the leader of the team arrived, he got rid of the entanglement and left the battlefield. Of course, not everyone is a coward like Guang, but no matter how radical they are, they dare not chase into the depths of the jungle alone. Because that is not tough, but suicide. It is precisely with this point that Qingming jumped back and forth and succeeded repeatedly. Unknowingly, he has accumulated more than 160,000 chakras, and the proficiency of the palm immortal technique has reached level 6, 9120/10000. Next, as long as he obtains another 130,000 chakras, his palm immortal technique can be successfully promoted. Just when Qingming was planning to make persistent efforts and gather the chakra required for the follow-up in one go, the Iwagakure village suddenly withdrew its troops. That's right, they are withdrawing. Not only them, but also the Iwagakure ninjas who were attacking the mountain to the north and besieging Fengliu town below have all withdrawn. Standing on the treetops, with the help of the dim light of the early morning, Qingming looked at the Iwagakure ninjas who were retreating in an orderly manner below, knowing that this battle was far from over. It was obvious that the entire army of the Iwagakure village went out last night to take them down in one go. Unfortunately, the appearance of Minato Namikaze broke their fantasy. Now, after several hours of fierce fighting in the second half of the night, they have recognized the reality and know that the goal is impossible to achieve. Therefore, they chose to retreat. It can be predicted that there will be no more large-scale attacks in the future. As long as the Iwagakure village does not want to destroy them in one go, then for the ninjas, a small team attack is far more effective than a large-scale attack in one go. But there is no doubt that this is not good for Qingming to obtain chakra. Because in this way, the proportion of Jonin in the Iwagakure team will increase rapidly. Although it will not pose much threat to him, it is unlikely to succeed as easily as last night. However, this did not have much impact on the promotion of the palm immortal technique. Only 130,000 chakra points. Even without additional chakra supplements, relying on his own recovery ability, it would take at most more than 3 days to accumulate enough, so there is no need to worry about delaying too long. As for the future, it will take one step at a time. After observing for a while, Qingming retracted his sight, then jumped down from the treetop and returned to the camp. After handing over the work of counting the casualties to other senior ninjas, Qingming went straight to the place where the wounded were placed. Then he began to use his medical ninjutsu to treat these people, and at the same time brushed up the proficiency of the palm immortal technique. A morning passed quickly. Although the Iwagakure village had retreated, Konoha still did not relax at all. Everyone was extremely vigilant and ready to deal with the next battle at any time. Facts have proved that their vigilance was not wrong. Just after the morning, the Iwagakure village launched an attack again. The opponent's choice was similar to what Qingming expected. It was indeed formed into small teams and launched an attack on the Fengliu town stronghold. Seeing this, Konoha did not choose to retreat, but also sent out small teams to fight with a rock ninja. This time, the entire battlefield expanded to a radius of 5 kilometers, and there were battles everywhere. The scene was quite tragic. The rock village had more people, and they could often form a situation of outnumbering the enemy. However, although Konoha had fewer people, their average combat power exceeded that of the rock ninja. Therefore, even if they were outnumbered, they could often achieve similar results. In this way, the battle situation was deadlocked here. Now, they could only fight to see which side could not hold on first. In a flash, several hours passed. It was near dusk. The battle finally subsided gradually, and the ninjas on both sides returned to their base camp exhausted and began to take time to rest. On the high mountains in the west, Qingming also experienced several fierce battles, but unfortunately he did not get much chakra. As for the reason, one is that his body can only accommodate a limited amount of chakra. And the battles were too frequent, so he had no time to digest those chakras, so naturally he could not get more. The second is the deliberate targeting by the hidden rock village. The other side seems to have known that he can absorb other people's chakra, so they will pay special attention to this point during the battle. Once they find that he has the action of absorbing chakra, they will immediately kill the captured hidden rock ninja, or use powerful ninjutsu to interrupt his action. In short, he is not allowed to get chakra comfortably. This makes Qingming sick. The key is that he has no way to deal with the opponent. Because the senior ninjas he faces at least appear in pairs. In this case, if he does not use his full strength, he can't easily kill the opponent. And if he uses his full strength, it will attract the support of the nearby hidden rock ninjas, and he still can't complete the kill. In short, it is very uncomfortable. Fortunately, his own strength is strong enough, and he doesn't have to worry about his own safety, so he just kills time like this. By the way, he can also brush up his proficiency in swordsmanship. Chapter 223 Decapitation Operation. The sun sets and the moon rises. In the blink of an eye, 3 days have passed. During these 3 days, the Konoha ninjas and the Iwagakure ninjas fought each other, and both sides suffered heavy losses, but neither of them gained an overwhelming advantage. Although the Iwagakure village had 2 powerful weapons, the 4-tails Jinchuriki and the 5-tails Jinchuriki, they did not dare to release them completely. On the Konoha side, although Minato Namikaze had the ability to cause huge casualties to the Iwagakure ninjas, he did not dare to act rashly in order to keep an eye on the two Jinchuriki. So, the situation was deadlocked there. Now, both sides are looking for a way to break the deadlock. Fengliu Town. In a conference room, all the Konoha Jonins gathered together to discuss the next action plan. First, Omura Yuto recounted the results and losses of the past 3 days. Everyone, in the past 3 days, Qingming was not interested in these contents. Listening to the other party's words, he cast his eyes on Minato Namikaze, who was sitting across the table. This was the first time he was so close to the other party. In the past 3 days, because of the tense situation of the war, he had no time to return to the base at the foot of the mountain, so he had never met him. As for before the war, he did know that Minato Namikaze had come to the base, but in order to keep it secret, he did not show up. Only Omura Yuto informed them, the senior ninjas. So, to be precise, this was their first meeting. It must be said that compared to the cold temperament of Orochimaru, the other party's gentle and elegant appearance did give people a better sense. In this way, it is not difficult to understand why the other party could suppress Orochimaru when the 4th generation Hokage was selected later. Although there was the influence of Sarutobi Hiruzen, in general, everyone was more optimistic about Minato Namikaze. It seemed that Minato Namikaze noticed that Qingming was observing him, and he also cast his eyes over. The moment the two looked at each other, Minato Namikaze showed a gentle smile, and then nodded to him as a greeting. Seeing this, Qingming also nodded slightly in response, and then retracted his gaze. Perhaps the Nine Tails Rebellion can consider saving the other party's life. In this way, the conflict between the Uchiha clan and the village can be greatly eased. If it is handled properly afterwards, it is possible to turn hostility into friendship. Qingming thought secretly in his heart. Although he did not have much sense of belonging to the Uchiha clan, he was still under the name of the Uchiha clan and received a lot of favors. He was willing to help with some small things. With the character of Namikaze Minato, he would definitely not deliberately intensify the conflict between the two sides after becoming the Hokage. In this way, with Uchiha Shisu, a relatively normal-minded Uchiha clan member, mediating and persuading Namikaze Minato to change some discriminatory policies of the village, then, the relationship between the two sides will most likely improve. After that, it is to rely on the power of time to slowly resolve the conflicts. Of course, these are just his ideas for the time being. Whether they will be implemented depends on how strong he is in a year. As the saying goes, you can only eat as much as you can. If he does not have enough strength, he will not risk interfering with the fate of Namikaze Minato. At worst, when the Uchiha clan is about to be exterminated, he can slap Uchiha Itachi to death with a slap. Anyway, there is no rush. What if you say that your strength is not enough at that time? Then Qingming can only say that he deserves to die. If he has not mastered overwhelming strength at that time with the help of the proficiency panel, it can only be said that he was lax. In this case, even if he died in the hands of Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Obito, he can't blame others. As for saving Namikaze Minato or the Uchiha clan changed the plot. Sorry, since he came to this world, the plot has changed, it's just a matter of whether it's obvious or not. As long as his strength is still growing, it is inevitable to change the plot. After all, this is an extraordinary world where great power belongs to oneself. The stronger the strength, the greater the disturbance to the world. Unless Qingming isolates himself and does not communicate with others, it will definitely affect the plot. But why should he wrong himself? Since he has strength, it should be others who adapt to him, not him to adapt to others. The so-called forbearance is to stop forbearing one day. Fearing the change of the plot has never been the mentality of the strong. What Qingming has to do is not to go with the flow, but to lead the trend. What's fun in the ninja world? The universe is so vast. If they have the ability, the 5 major ninja villages can occupy a planet. It can only be said that their vision limits their way of thinking. With such a convenient ability as chakra, they are still fighting for such a little resource in this mud pit, which is ridiculous. What Qingming has to do is to draw the attention of the ninja world to the starry sky after having absolute strength. After all, our goal is the sea of stars. Qingming Junin, what do you think of this plan? Just when Qingming was wandering in the sky, the voice of Omura brought his thoughts back. Qingming was confused at first, then he quickly sorted out the content that he had just ignored. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded and said, I have no problem, Hearing this, Omura Yuto nodded with satisfaction and said, "Okay, it's settled. Tonight, Qingming, the senior ninja, will lead the team to sneak into the hidden rock camp. Minato, you and your team will be ready to provide support." That's right. Just now, after Omura Yuto reported the damage to the base in the past 3 days, everyone discussed a plan. That is, the decapitation operation. The mission requires Qingming, the master, to lead a senior ninja team to sneak into the hidden rock camp, find their headquarters, and then summon Minato Namikaze to lead people over to directly complete the decapitation. At that time, others will attack the hidden rock from the periphery to cover their retreat. Although this mission is somewhat dangerous, out of confidence in his own strength, Qingming agreed after just a little consideration. As for Minato Namikaze, he has even less objection. Not to mention that his mission was not as dangerous as Qingming's. The existence of the Flying Thunder God technique alone gave him enough confidence to go deep into the dangerous area. Therefore, after Qingming agreed, he also said, "No problem, I will be ready." As he spoke, he took out a 3-pronged kunai from his ninja tool bag and handed it to Qingming. Qingming took this special kunai and looked carefully. He saw a talisman wrapped around its handle with 4 words written on it, "Sword of Ninja Love." Qingming knew that this was Minato Namikaze's Flying Thunder God technique. Unlike the pattern of the second-generation Hokage, Senju Tobirama, Minato Namikaze's Flying Thunder God technique is just a line of text. Similarly, this is also a chakra mark. As long as Qingming touches the mark above, Minato Namikaze can sense it. At that time, he will activate the Flying Thunder God technique and bring people to the scene in an instant. It can be said that the possibility of success of this plan is extremely high. And this is also the reason why Qingming is willing to take risks. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 Promotion and Infiltration. That night, Fengliu Town. In the stronghold, Qingming completed the practice of the palm immortal technique again. Suddenly, a sense of enlightenment emerged in his mind. At this moment, Qingming felt that he had a deeper understanding of the palm immortal technique. This familiar feeling made Qingming know that his palm immortal technique should have been upgraded. Then, he opened the panel and took a look. Sure enough, on the panel, his palm immortal technique had been upgraded from LV6 to LV7. This is his second skill upgraded to LV7 after the reflection heart technique, and its effect is directly improved by a large margin compared to LV6. Qingming estimated that there should be few people in the ninja world who use the palm immortal technique better than him. Now, if Qingming is asked to treat some external injuries, as long as they are not too serious, he can easily cure them. Moreover, it will not consume too much of the target's lifespan. You know, most medical ninjutsu, including the palm immortal technique, treat injuries by stimulating the target's cell division. However, the number of times human cells can divide is limited. Excessive stimulation will consume the lifespan of those cells and eventually affect the lifespan of the human body. But after his palm immortal technique was upgraded to level 7, this problem was improved. It is not that the level 7 palm immortal technique can increase the number of cell divisions. Rather, it can consume more chakra to achieve the best healing effect after each cell division. In this way, the number of cell divisions required to heal injuries is naturally reduced, which naturally reduces the loss of lifespan. And this is just the improvement of the healing effect. In addition, the effect of strengthening the body, which he values, has also been improved. With a thought, Qingming formed seals with both hands and performed the palm immortal technique again. Then, he clearly felt that the yang escape chakra he condensed this time was much purer than before. Qingming controlled these chakras to wander in his body, along the chakra meridians, and penetrated into various tissues and organs of the body. Suddenly, a comfortable feeling came, and Qingming couldn't help but let out a groan. 3 minutes later, Qingming opened his eyes. He secretly estimated, if he could do this kind of strengthening for about 8,000 times, his body would accumulate enough foundation to undergo a transformation. Each time he cast the palm immortal technique, he needed 150 chakra points, and 8,000 times would be 1.2 million points. Now, he could recover 42,000 chakra points every day. In other words, even without the supplement of extra chakra, It would only take less than a month for his body to complete the evolution. By then, his physique attribute would be increased from 13 points to 14 points, and he could try to open the main Gekyo Sharingan. And if he could get some extra chakra, the time would be further shortened. Thinking of this, Qingming couldn't help but feel a surge of heat in his heart, and he wanted to find a few rock ninjas immediately and drain their chakras. Calm down. Calm down, Papa. Qingming patted his cheeks and forced himself to calm down. Although the prospect of capturing rock ninjas was very tempting, regardless of whether the timing was right, even if he got 1.2 million chakra points right now, it would be useless. Because he needed time to digest it. Qingming calculated that, at a frequency of once every 3 minutes and a rest of 4 hours a day, it would take at least 20 days for him to complete the evolution. In this case, he consumed 60,000 chakra points every day. Apart from the 42,000 points he recovered, he needed to replenish an additional 18,000 points. Although this number was not small, it was not a big number either. Therefore, there was no need for him to rush. Moreover, it would not be long before he would have to carry out the mission of sneaking into the enemy camp. How could he have time to capture any rock ninjas? These things could only be put off for later. In a flash, another 2 hours passed. It was late at night. With a sharp whistle, the entire Fengliu town came alive again. A group of Konoha ninjas walked out of their houses with tired faces, gathered numbly, and then numbly went outside the town to fight a desperate battle with the rock ninjas in the dark. This was the strategy of the rock ninjas. Relying on their large numbers, they took turns to attack, almost day and night, and launched attacks on Fengliu town to wear down the will of the Konoha ninjas. Although this tactic of tiring the enemy is simple, it is very effective. The rock ninja has been using it for the past 2 days. And today, Qingming was waiting for this time. After checking his equipment one last time and making sure that he had everything with him, especially that he had not forgotten Minato Namikaze's special Kune, he followed the crowd and appeared somewhere outside the town. A moment later, 3 more figures came over. These were his teammates on this trip, 2 special Jonins who were good at lurking and assassinating, and a reconnaissance ninja from the Hyuga clan. Qingming nodded at the 3 people, and then, according to the plan, he headed towards the rock ninja camp in the east. Seeing this, the 3 people hurriedly followed. An hour later, Qingming and his group of 4 arrived not far from the rock ninja camp. With his Sharingan and the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan, they avoided many dangers and traps along the way and finally arrived here safely. Next, it depends on their performance. Qingming carefully observed the camp not far away for a while and found that the defense of the rock ninja was very tight, and it was basically impossible to sneak in easily. So, he made a gesture to the Hyuga clan ninja beside him, signaling her to start looking for an opportunity to sneak in. Seeing his gesture, Hyuga Crimson nodded, then put her hands on her chest, concentrated her mind, and suddenly opened her Byakugan. In an instant, everything in front of her was reflected in her eyes. Hyuga Crimson began to carefully observe the distribution of the rock ninja's defensive forces and the route of the patrol troops, while also looking for the location of the rock ninja headquarters. Time passed by minute. Soon, a quarter of an hour passed. Hyuga Crimson was still observing the rock ninja camp in front of her. The rock ninja patrol team passed by them not far away several times. Although they did not find them, it also made the other 2 in the team a little anxious. Noticing that their breathing was a little rapid, Qingming immediately made a gesture, signaling them to restrain their breath and keep quiet. Seeing Qingming's gesture, the 2 realized that they had lost their composure. So they quickly restrained their breath and continued to wait patiently. Another quarter of an hour later, just as another team of rock ninjas passed by not far in front of them, Hinata Fihong finally retracted her gaze and closed her Byakugan. Seeing this, Qingming immediately cast a questioning look at her. Seeing Qingming's gaze, Hinata Fihong nodded confidently. Then, she gestured and said that she needed to rest for a few minutes. Qingming looked at the slight sweat on her forehead and realized that she had opened her Byakugan for a long time and could not bear it anymore. So, he agreed to her proposal. She would need to use her Byakugan to sneak into the rock ninja camp later, so she had to let it recover. Chapter 225 Exposed. A few minutes later. After resting, Hinata Crimson nodded to Qingming, then opened the Byakugan again and began to lead the way. Seeing this, Qingming also opened the Sharingan and followed her with the other 2. Thanks to the intelligence just observed by the Byakugan, The four of them quickly bypassed a patrol of the rock ninja and entered the camp. Hinata Crimson made a gesture, indicating that the three of them should follow her closely. According to the plan, the infiltration was mainly based on the other party, and Qingming and others naturally had no objection. They nodded at the same time to show that they understood. Then, the four of them walked deeper into the rock ninja camp. They took many turns and avoided all the fixed guards of the rock ninja. In addition, whenever there was a rock ninja patrol coming, Hinata Crimson could always warn them one step ahead and let them avoid it. This made them like invisible people, shuttling through the rock ninja camp without anyone noticing. And this is the power of the Byakugan. With it, the enemy's defense forces and traps can be completely exposed, greatly reducing the difficulty of infiltration. A few minutes later, Qingming and others, led by Hinata Fihong, finally arrived outside the rock ninja headquarters. Hiding in the woods, looking at the two rock ninja chunins in charge of guarding in front and the dark cave entrance behind them, Qingming fell into a brief thought. That's right, the rock ninja headquarters is underground. They used Earth Escape ninjutsu to open up a large space underground. According to Hinata Fihong, this underground space has only one entrance and exit in front of it, and other places are guarded by barriers. Once they break in without permission, they will definitely trigger the alarm. At that time, they will be exposed. But this entrance and exit is also guarded by people, not just the two rock ninja chunins in front of them, but also two rock ninjas secretly monitoring. In this case, the best way is to sneak in. However, they don't know anything about the relevant secret orders and procedures, and it is impossible to succeed. It's a bit late to collect them now. As the saying goes, delay will lead to changes. Qingming thought for a while, and then ordered the two special Junin who are good at lurking and assassination around him to deal with the two secret sentries. He himself dealt with the two guards in the open in front. As for being exposed, that was for sure. But as long as it wasn't the first time, he could accept it. Anyway, the purpose of their trip was to behead, and they would definitely be exposed after the mission began. In that case, there was no need to worry too much. Qingming glanced at Hinata Fihong, who used her Byakugan to observe the surrounding situation and quickly nodded at him, indicating that no one was coming this way for the time being. Seeing this, Qingming immediately waved his hand and signaled the other two to act. After receiving the order, the two immediately split into left and right without any hesitation, and moved towards the two Iwagakure guards hidden in the dark. These two secret sentinels were also only Chunin. It's not that the Iwagakure's defense was lax, or that the manpower was tight and they were unable to equip stronger combat power, but there was no need to waste high-end combat power here. After all, this is the center of the camp, and there are layers of protection on the periphery. And ordinary people can't get in at all. Unfortunately, they miscalculated this time. After waiting for a while, when Hinata Fihong told him that the two teammates were in place, Qingming began his own action. He first moved away from the entrance of the headquarters, found an empty corner, and then performed the transformation technique to transform into the appearance of an Iwagakure Junin. Then, he walked towards the two guards with a swagger. Seeing from a distance that it was one of their own, the two guards instinctively relaxed their vigilance, and when he approached, they routinely said, "Please show me the warrant." Hearing this, Qingming nodded indifferently, then raised his right hand and reached into his arms, as if to take out the so-called warrant. The two guards' attention was attracted, and one of them suddenly fell to the ground. What? The other was shocked when he saw this. Then, he realized that something was wrong, and then looked at Qingming, about to warn him. However, what caught his eyes was a pair of scarlet Sharingan. The moment the two looked at each other, Qingming activated the hypnotic ability of the Sharingan, and with just one glance, the other froze in place, unable to move. As for the man who just fell, he was controlled by the Genjutsu Sharingan that he used with the action of stretching out his hand. It seems long, but it actually happened in an instant. At the same time, the two rock ninjas who were secretly monitoring this place also noticed something was wrong, but before they could sound the alarm, their throats were cut. Two figures appeared behind them. They were the two special Junins from the Qingming team who were good at lurking and assassinating. After confirming that the target was dead, they hastily hid the body and then returned to Qingming. At this time, Qingming had also killed the two guards and hid them aside. Qingming looked at the three members of the team and said, "You transform immediately, and we will go underground together. Fihong, you are responsible for leading the way." "Yes, Captain." Although Qingming was not very old, as the commander of the team, The three of them still responded seriously. Then, the three of them performed the transformation technique together, turned into the appearance of ordinary rock ninjas, and walked into the underground space with Qingming. Hinata Crimson opened her Byakugan, avoiding danger while looking for the location of the rock ninja headquarters. As for how to distinguish, it was very simple. As long as the chakra reached the level of a Jonin and was relatively concentrated, that was the rock ninja headquarters. According to this standard, the four of them moved forward. Time passed by minute. Suddenly, Hinata Crimson stopped and said in a serious voice, "Something is wrong." "What's wrong?" Qingming asked immediately. Hinata Crimson used the Byakugan to observe again for a while, and then said, "The nearby rock ninja guards moved, and they seem to be searching here." "That's right, this underground space has its own defense force. Generally speaking, they will not move at will. After all, this is the headquarters, and there are secrets everywhere. After moving, it is easier to leak secrets. Therefore, unless necessary, they will only be dispersed in several places on standby. And now, they have moved, which means that there is a reason for them to move, combined with their current thinking around. It is not difficult to guess that these people's target is the four of them. In other words, they have been exposed. In fact, it is indeed the case. Not long ago, a Chunin from Iwagakure needed to come to the headquarters for something, but when he walked to the entrance, he found that the guard was missing. So he immediately became alert and searched everywhere. Soon he found the body of the guard and immediately realized that something had happened. Without any hesitation, he immediately sounded the alarm. The headquarters received the news and immediately ordered the guards to take action to search for the enemies who had sneaked into the underground space, namely the four Qingming. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.